And I'll tell you if you're live right now before we. Boost your post for $30. It says we're live. I just want to make sure before we. Okay, good to go. All right, so this one is YouTube. So I'm going to leave you on Facebook so you can see your Facebook comments. Now we are not muted. They can hear us, I forgot. And you are a go. Facebook, some chats.
Okay.
And I'll work on getting YouTube for you.
And a good evening, everyone, and welcome to kind of a special edition. Actually, we've been talking to Stuart Friesen for most of the season, and because he's winning just about every week, or this place or the other place. So we said, well, we talked it back and forth, and he says, let's do this. When I win a truck race, I will come and do your show. Obviously, he won a truck race Thursday night at the Dirt Derby, and he's going to do our show. So there we go. So, all right. Stuart's going to give us a call here probably around, well, not probably. He's a man of his word, and he said he would call at 7:30, so that's what we're going to do. So until then, we're going to fill you in on what happened over the past weekend. And other than Stewie picking up the win at Eldora in the Dirt Derby, his first truck series win after it's the third year, I believe, of trying. We're going to talk to him certainly about that. And also his
You're good. Audio's
what he's doing with the remainder of the season with both the trucks and the modified. Obviously, he's in the playoffs now, so that'll be one of my questions. After the playoffs, what is going to happen to the team? Are they going to continue on for another season, or maybe move on into something else? We shall see. And we want to thank Chad Oprah, who is Stuart's PR guy. He has put us up on with Stewie's fan page. So hopefully we'll get a ton of listeners and watchers here this evening. I am not apologizing, but I'm saying some of you might have thought Stuart was going to come in the office here and you'd be able to see him, but not this time. Maybe next time. But he is getting ready for the Supercar Series event at his old home track where he was brought up and raised, that his parents owned in Ransomville, tomorrow night. So he wanted to stay kind of close to the garage area so he could just double check on things as Tommy Conboy and Eric Mack and Jimmy Johnson Jr. and all the guys up at the garage can get ready for tomorrow night's event. He is taking tonight off from the Merrittville Speedway. They had a issue with the hauler, and I'll talk to him in just a little bit. We will see what that issue was. Apparently it's something they figure they can get fixed by tomorrow night. So they thought they'd take a night off to catch their breath and get ready for the big show. Also, as the evening transpires here, we will go to one of our local racers as well, Scott Duell, who picked up his first win in over a year at the Albany-Saratoga Speedway in a, well, not a borrowed race car, but a loaned race car that a friend of his had campaigned and decided to give Scott a chance. And he's looked really, really strong in the car, finally picking up his first win here on Friday night. And then we'll wrap things up at the end of the season, or end of the night, not the season, the end of the night with Mike Bruno, the promoter of Devil's Bowl Speedway, who wanted to chat a little bit with us, a race that Stuart will be competing in. The Big Block, Small Block Challenge, $10,000 to the winner over at Devil's Bowl a week from, well, not, a week from yesterday, this coming Sunday. And one of the big shows on their docket this year, and something a little different, the way they're going to line them up. And we'll talk to Mike about that, and talk to Mike about his whole season. They've had a issue with track, like a lot of them have, and that's going to be something we'll have to see. Now, keep getting the number 52 up, coming up there. It's Stewie's number, so that's pretty good.
Hey, there we go.
This is good luck. Now we're popping over, and I'm sure we will once Stuart gets with us here. But before we get to Stuart and Scott and Mike, we will run down through quick what happened. And a lot did happen this weekend, other than the fact that Stuart kind of doubled up on the week as he picked up another win at the Fonda Speedway. His third, I believe, this season. And well, that was all said and done. Rocky Warner was able to clinch the track championship, and they have already will have printed out championship shirts that will be sold on Saturday night. So it should be a great night at Fonda for the track championships. I believe Timmy Hartman Jr. just has to take the green to win the sportsman division. So their championship races are kind of over in those two divisions. The pro stocks, looks like Cousin Luke has got a fairly good handle on that. But his good friend Nick Stone, our guest last week, who won his third race in a row on Saturday night, might have something to happen. Anything can happen in racing, but Cousin Luke looks like a pretty good shot at that point. But it still will be championship night at Fonda coming up pretty soon. And okay, well, close around that one. Okay, so here we go. On Friday night at the Albany-Saratoga Speedway, the Great Race Place, probably one of the strangest, or not strangest, but different winners interview on the track Friday night, when the modified winner, Mike Mahaney, was certainly happy that he won, but not too happy that he blew the motor on the number 35 car. That was their last big block, and had quite a little talk with his car owner, George Hutting from Adirondack Auto, and George was pretty despondent. They have spent a ton of money this year, and Mike has been very competitive in both the big and small block. He's been running both the Super Dirt Series and the 358 Modified Series, and doing very well on both. However, I believe, I was going to check with them, didn't get a chance. I believe they were going to sit out the swing this weekend, or this week, at the Merrittville tonight, and then in Ransomville tomorrow, because of lack of motors. They may have come up with an alternative. They don't know if they were going to take the small block to Merrittville, where the small blocks have been certainly equal, if not a little bit of an advantage. However, I understand that Merrittville Speedway, along with Dirt, had raised the weight, the minimum weight for the small blocks for tonight's show, and that would sort of even things up for the big block guys who weren't too happy. This is a big block series, and they were getting beat by small blocks. So they're going to hope to maybe eliminate their little advantage tonight by adding that extra weight, but we'll have to see. But anyhow, Mike Mahaney said, well, we won, maybe $3,000 or so Friday night, 2,500, but it cost us probably 15 to get the 15,000 it is to get the motor fixed again. They've had some serious problems with several of their vehicles, so it's got to be, they think it's something they're doing, but they can't quite figure out why, because they've had different oil tanks, they've had different everything.
You're good.
Okay. Different oil tanks, different oil lines, and they're trying to get the problem figured out, but obviously haven't. But anyway, it was kind of a bittersweet win for Mahaney. I was talking to Mike afterwards. He said he figured that he spun a bearing about a lap and a half before the end of the race. You could feel the car tightening up and motor slowing down. So not a good feeling at all. But they had big smiles in victory lane, and that's what you got to do. But tough break for a great team. George Hutting has been fielding modified race cars here in the Northeast for many seasons, and has spent a lot of money and really getting some of the rewards here, certainly this season, as Mike has been a great driver for those cars, but not having the greatest luck with motors this season. Finishing second on Friday night was the Australian Peter Britton. Peter coming back from a little bit of a slump here in the last month or so, and back getting closer to the front, finishing second twice this weekend on Friday night at his Friday night track at Albany Saratoga, and at the Lebanon Valley Speedway on Saturday night. So Batman coming home with 2 second place finishes on the weekend, so pretty good deal. And the fellow that almost won last week, didn't quite, as Rocky Warner was able to get by him with just a lap or so to go. Bobby Hackle, the fourth, again running in the top 5. It's just a matter of time before the 97 of Hackle sits in victory lane, that's for sure. Keith Flack was fourth, and Kenny Tremont Jr. rounding out the top 5. The points leader, Matt DiLorenzo, came home in 6th, and the guy is right behind him. Finished the spot behind, so now Matt DiLorenzo has a 2-point lead over Mark Johnson, who finished 7th on Friday night. Rocky Warner, after his big win, started deep in the field and came back through to finish in the top 10 and 8th. Ronnie Johnson, Chris Johnson, rounding out the top 10. And then on the sportsman deal, a little bit later on, we'll be talking to the winner, Scott Dool, who was able to get by Marty Kelly III, who had led most of the event, to pick up his first win in over a year. Cale Croft, Tim Hartman Jr. from, again, deep in the field to finish 4th, and helping his points lead a little bit. And Connor Cleveland finishing a couple spots behind him. So Hartman has a slight lead over Connor Cleveland as they head down the end of the schedule here. Derek McGrew Jr., who started up in the front, stayed there and finished in 5th. So good run for the youngster on Friday night. The points leader, Dylan Bucas, picking up the win over David Bosclair and Bill August in the limited sportsman. In the pro stocks, Cousin Luke coming back to Albany Saratoga at the end of the season after leaving, wasn't quite midway, ran a couple of weeks and then decided to take Friday nights off. Cousin Luke picking up the win over Jason Corbin, Nick Arnold, Brandon Eming, and Chuck Dembluski. And Chucky Dembluski having a not so great weekend. 5th place is certainly not too bad on Friday night, but there was some sparks shooting out of the number 7 for most of the feature event, and it turned out to be some serious rear end pieces that got chewed up. So he trucked on over to Honda Speedway on Saturday night and had worse problems as he blew the motor in hot laps and did not compete on Saturday in the heat race, I guess, and did not compete in the feature. So basically, certainly took him out of any kind of good points race that he had in the season. They will be back. Saw on Facebook somewhere they said they will finish up the season, that's for sure. He is second in points over at Albany Saratoga, so he definitely will be back there trying to pick up a track championship. As we said, after Friday night event, Matt DiLorenzo leads Mark Johnson by 2 in the modifieds, and slowly but surely, a multi-time champion, Kenny Tremont, has snuck into third spot, and he is less than 9 points back. So anything can happen yet in the modified division. DiLorenzo, Mark Johnson, Kenny Tremont, Peter Britton with a second place finish, moved himself up into 4th. Rocky Warner is 5th now. They have several more weeks to go, 4, I believe, and so that could switch around. But right now, it's going to be between DiLorenzo, Mark Johnson, and Kenny Tremont right at the present time. Tim Hartman leads by 18 points over Connor Cleveland in the tight sportsman event points chase. Andrew Buff and Jeremy Pitts next in line. Dylan Bucas, as we said, with 2 feature wins so far this year, has a pretty hefty lead over Tucker O'Connor in the limited sportsman. And Josh Coonrod with 4 feature wins is just about 16 points ahead of Chuck Dembluski. Brandon Eming is right up in there as well in 3rd. So those top 3 guys have a shot. So it's Coonrod, Dembluski, and Eming look to be the guys that are going to go down to the wire for the championship over at Albany Saratoga. So a great race again for Mike Behaney as far as the win goes, but not so good with the bottom line and having some serious motor issues in the Hutting number 35. Hopefully they will be back with something on Friday night, which we'll see. George says we may have to take a week off. We'll see. Hopefully they'll come up with something. And then Saturday night, of course, at the Track of Champions Fonda Speedway, it was Stuart Friesen picking up the win in a late race pass of Danny Varon. Danny had got to the front fairly early after a hard crash the week before, when Danny actually had left and was not even in the feature event at Fonda a week previous. Danny looked to have the car to beat, and for most of the event, running up on the top, looked like he had things well under control. Stuart Friesen coming on strong in the last several laps, like we've seen. I don't know, just about every race at Fonda this season has been decided in the last 2 or 3 laps, and Saturday night was no different, as Stewie found the bottom, and not too usual for him to run the bottom a lot at Fonda, but the car was great there, and he was able to cut down the deficit, which was pretty long, with just a few laps to go, and pulled off another, not a last lap pass, but pretty darn close. So Varon had to settle for second. Dave Constantino, who after the the first couple of weeks, picking up his first modified win at Fonda, just has been off most of the season. Looks like they're back, and talked to Dave for just a few moments on Saturday night and asked him what their issue was. He said, I just don't have time, of course, with the DKM chassis business being so busy, and moving the business up to Hageman, which is almost completed. They are pretty much in the new building now, but he will, he says, I just don't have time to spend on preparing your car and the maintenance and all that stuff, and it's been a tough go, but good to see him back up in the podium finish on Saturday night. Young Brian Gleason showing some muscle on Saturday night, coming home with his, I think, the best finish. He might have had a third this season, but 4th. And then Rocky Warner with his 5th place finish. And Bobby Varon, who was the next guy in line in points, having an rough night, had to got involved and went to the back of the field and worked his way back up through to a top 10 finish. But Rocky was able to garner enough points so he will show up and be the champion this coming Saturday night. So there will be a party in Gloversville, or at Fonda, first off, that's for sure, on Saturday, as Rocky Warner will celebrate. And that he will become, hopefully we'll have him on next week, he'll become, I think, the first guy ever to win in every division, a championship that is, in every division at the Fonda Speedway, street stocks, pro stocks, sportsman, and modified. So quite a accomplishment for the Flying Squirrel. We'll have to have a long chat, I'm sure, with him very, very shortly. Also, and just a little side note, well, we got to get to the crate deal. Tim Hartman Jr. motored through the field. He was on a mission. Talked to him afterwards. He said, "Yeah, we decided we needed to win tonight." That was Saturday night, and then we wouldn't have to worry about the following night of champions because we were already locked in, and that's exactly what he did. Brian Calabrese coming home with a runner-up spot. Chad Edwards, who looked to have as good a car as Hartman, but just got messed around. There were quite a few cautions, and Chad really looking strong. However, coming up a little bit short in his quest for the repeat championship on Saturday night, finishing up in third, so he doesn't have enough points in one race to catch Hartman. Andrew Buff and Mark Mortensen, again, a rocket ship, started deep in the field, 14th, I believe, and came back up through to finish in the top 5 with his DKM chassis automobile. And several hard hits on Saturday night. Brian Borst, who had led a lot of the event and had pulled away early, had the front end collapse after contact with another race car, and ended up in the back of the field. So Brian will be back. He said, well, we'll start out front next week again and see if we can't stay there this time. Hard crash for Tony Ferrone into the backstretch wall. Really looked nasty. Luckily, Tony was not injured, but the car had to be cradled out of the speedway in a flatbed trailer. Would not fit in the trailer, so not a very good sign. Tony had a really good season as well, but ended on Saturday night, I would guess. And then probably the worst incident of the evening actually started before the racing even began. The Nick Scavio, who we had on the show last week after his win the previous Saturday, was coming to the racetrack about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon when the driver of the hauler noticed smoke coming out of the trailer. They pulled over. They were right by the Winter Circle restaurant close to Fonda Speedway. And as soon as they opened up the door, the thing took off. And luckily, somehow or other, Nick talked to him on Saturday night, said, I'm not quite sure what I was thinking or if I was, but somehow got in the race car and got it unstrapped enough to back it out before the flames engulfed the trailer and saved the race car. And luckily, nobody was injured, and but lost everything. And he said everything he had was in that trailer, wheels and tires and tools and the whole 9 yards. So unfortunately, and obviously didn't think his luck was that great. He better not race his car on Saturday, even though the car was there. They actually took the car home in another trailer. But how tight-knit the racing family is, the McCall family loaned him EJ's car after EJ almost won his feature event in the Limited Sportsman, finishing in third after suffering a fuel starvation problem at the end after leading. But so Nick took it out for a couple laps just to get some points. So as he said, he had no helmet, he had no his suit, everything was gone. So I borrowed all that stuff just to go out to get some points. And not quite sure what's going to happen with Scavia's team for the remainder of the season, but Nick says, all we have is a race car right at the present time, and the hauler. The hauler was fine, but pretty much everything else was gone. So I know there's a lot of fans out there. Why don't you get a hold of Nick or his team and see if you can help out somewhere? I'm sure they'll take any offers, and maybe they'll be able to get enough tools and stuff back. He said he could probably get a trailer from one of his friends. Is not a problem, but so our prayers go out to the Scavia family and their loss of their everything but the race car. Luckily, nobody else was seriously injured, but tough way to start or finish up the season, that's for sure. In the limited sports, it is Rich Chrisman over Alan Hansen and EJ McCullough, as we said. In the Pro Stock feature, our guest here last week made it 3 in a row, three-peat for Nick Stone, the Manimal. And Cousin Luke was right there and pretty much sealed his deal as far as his championship goes with that second place finish as well. Nick is a little behind him. Kenny Gates finishing up in third. Fourth was Justin Knight, who looked super at the beginning of the evening and finally drifted back a little bit to finish in the top 5 in fourth. And Ivan Joslin rounding out the top 5. Jack Coonrod was 6th. And as I said, a tough night for Chucky Demblewski, who blew the motor and finished last. So certainly hurt him in the point standings, that's for sure. Jason Sombrov won the street stock event. And I don't know, where's my clock? I don't even. Oh, I could look here. No.
7:30.
It is?
Yep, just about. So he should be coming in a minute.
Okay.
And they want to know if Ed or if Rocky's coming on because he won the championship.
Yeah, that's our plan. As far as any of you have listened and watched us for the last 40 years or whatever, we've been trying to have a championship night on.
We'll have the co-host
on the on the Monday night after the championships are decided. The last couple of years we've split it up a little bit and had the modified and pro stock guys on. Different nights are limited, or the sportsman guys, but we will try to get Rocky on next Monday night, that's for sure. And Adam McCullough said that Nick looked pretty good in a McCullough suit. And they got it all set to make it to the track on Saturday. And for I don't think. Okay, we won't even read the rest of that. But no, it was a great gesture on the McCullough team, and that just shows how many of the racing family, even though they're competitors on the racetrack, everybody looks to help out the neighbors when there's situations such as Nick Scavia had on Saturday, that's for sure. It really brings out the best in everybody when everybody gets in. Okay, there's a couple of people in it. I'm trying to monitor this, so if everybody, if you have some questions for Stu, I already got one here. We want to know about the track conditions at Eldora. Okay, we'll do that as soon as Stewie gets with us. And like I say, I don't have a. He should be calling us here momentarily, and it's going to be kind of a neat deal. Somebody just brought up the fact that going to his home track tomorrow night. Could make it a 3 win in a row. He certainly knows Ransomville. Spent many years going around there in a water truck and many other things. And we'll talk to him about that in just a moment or two. I know he had some issues in the past when he was going to use the hard line. He had a cell service up on the hill there. Sometimes is not as good as it could be. But we're all waiting here with bated breath for Stuart to give us a jingle here. Until he does, let me just finish up. As we said, down at Lebanon Valley Speedway on Saturday night, it was Kenny Tremont Jr. picking up, let's see, I believe his third win of the season as well. And Kenny has really found something in the last couple of weeks, pretty much since the last we talked to him. After his first win at Albany Saratoga, and has been as good as anybody at Albany Saratoga, and apparently was very, very good on Saturday night at his home track in Lebanon Valley, as he picked up the win fairly easily. He said it was probably one of the easiest wins he's had at Lebanon Valley. They got a new motor from Brian Bedell and the thing, and got him to the front fairly easy. The car was about as close to perfect as could be, and picked up the win. Peter Britton finishing in second slot. J.R. Hefner was third. Keith Flack fourth, and Kyle Armstrong rounding out the top five. In the small block event, it was Brian Sandstedt picking up the win over J.R. Hefner, Timothy Davis, Frank Harper, and Ricky Davis. That one was cut short to 17 laps. The Pro Stock race, which was a Jim Langenbach Old Buzzard 30 for Jimmy Langenbach, the 54L. Rick Dempsey picking up the win over Nick Arnold, who had led much of the race. So Nick is getting very close to picking up a win. Jason Meltz was third. Jason Casey, the point leader, finishing up in fourth spot, and Rich Crane rounding out the top five. Of course, the big story there was the little brouhaha they had with Chad Jessio and Rick Duzlak, which has been an ongoing situation, I guess, most of the season. And I have not heard or seen anything yet from Lebanon Valley what they were going to do. And it was that time of year when tempers flare and racers do what sometimes racers do. Wasn't there to see. I did see the video, and it seems like that there was there definitely was contact made several times between the two, and I guess you had to be there to understand. But you got to figure these guys work, all week long on these race cars, and they have about 15 minutes or so in the sun to get them done, and sometimes it doesn't work out. And this time of year, when people haven't won or wishing they've won, they get a little carried away. Last night at the Jan Corcoran Memorial, a $3,000 to win event at the Utica Rome Speedway, Eric Rudolph, who has really come in strong here the last couple of weeks, beat Matt Shepard again this weekend. He beat him at the Land of Legends on Saturday night. He beat him again last night at Utica. Rudolph, 16, I believe, 17 wins on the season so far. He's having a tremendous year. Shepard finished up in the runner-up spot. Gary Tompkins driving the BAE number 151. Came home a strong third. Pat Ward, Billy Dunn, the top five. Dave Schilling, Lance Willick, Dave Marcichelli, and Adam Roberts rounding out the top group there. In the Pro Stocks, Stone keeping on his roll, picking up another win at Utica, finishing just in front of Josh Coonrod, Pete Stefanski, and Shane Henderson. Nick is just behind Josh in points there as well, so that one will continue to run down for the next couple of weeks till they finish up the point season. And if we get to the dirt Derby in the Super Dirt Car Series event on Thursday night. Eric Rudolph won that one as well, going back to last Thursday. Billy Decker finishing second. Matt Williamson, who's also had a strong finish to the season, making some great moves. So it's great to see Eric Rudolph, Matt Williamson, young guns coming on and competing with these top guys, Shepard and Billy Decker's been doing it for years. So it's a good sign for the sport that these youngsters, Rudolph's like 26 or something, 25, and Matt's not too much different, but it's great to see them doing that. All right, I'm hoping that our phone system is working. And because we're running a little bit now, we're a few minutes late. Stuart wants to get set down in a comfortable spot there so we can chat for a moment as we are waiting with bated breath there. And, you said the phone is fine, right?
Yep, phone's on.
Okay. I could. Well, I shouldn't have to, but yeah, let me see here. Looking at some of the comments, a lot of people that did travel out to Eldora and saw Stuart pick up the big win at the Speedway. We're happy that they did, that's for sure. His first, and he's got a great week planned ahead, that's for sure. Heading to his home track tomorrow night at Ransomville, and then to Michigan, where he coulda, woulda, shoulda won last year. So he's got a lot of confidence going to Michigan, that is for sure. So it wouldn't be crazy to think that he get back-to-back wins here after winning the Dirt Derby and then heading to Michigan to pick up another Truck Series race, getting really ready for the playoffs. Certainly points would be do better with another win, that's for sure. And then heading to Devil's Bowl. And I don't know, I'll have to ask him when he does call that if Devil's Bowl, if he's raced there before. I'm sure he's been there once or twice before. And did notice on Stuart's website last night that he did get a congratulations from Richard Childress. That's a pretty good deal. Yep, that's the same kind of question I was going to ask him if, Childress is noticing maybe there'll be a possibility of moving to Xfinity type deal.
This call is being recorded.
Okay.
Well, hey, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Okay.
Gotcha.
I got 154 people here waiting for you, so we're good at least on this.
Perfect.
No, we're up to 100. We're going okay. Now it's going off the charts. Anyhow, anyway, congratulations. Like everybody else has said here on Facebook, we're watching some of the comments, and I told you on Saturday night, and I'm sure everybody else did as well. Certainly great that, in fact, a couple of people talked to me at the shop and said, well, he won. He didn't race at Fonda on Saturday, did he? I said, yeah, that's his home. That's his home track. He came back to thank the fans, and we all thank you for that. You're kind of our adopted son here now, moving to the area, but I think all of the Northeast has adopted you here the last couple of seasons, and my God, I think I had the windows closed with the air conditioner on, but I think that there was a loud cheer that rang out through the whole Northeast Thursday night.
Yeah, absolutely. It's special. We've been out there fighting, on the Truck Series the last couple of years and learning the game and getting better and better. And, last year getting aligned with GMS and, doing everything but winning one. And then, this year has been kind of the same. So finally we were able to go to Eldora and get to business and, have a race go our way and got the checkered flag. So it was really cool to come back Saturday night and come back home and have, all the support from all our local race fans, and it's great. I love living in this area. I love Fonda Speedway. It's an awesome track and an awesome home track, and just proud to represent everybody when we're away. But it's even more special to come back and win races at home too. So it was just a good deal, good couple of days for us.
Is there any similarity between Fonda? Because you've come to Fonda, it's the tough track for everybody, but you seem to come in and just sweep. I mean, 58 wins now after Saturday night, and only really 5 or 6 years of steady competition there. And last couple of years, of course, with the trucks, you haven't been there every week. But they say if you can run well at Fonda, you can run well anywhere. I mean, that's the old adage going back to the days of Shoemaker and Danish and all the old guys. That's why I got its name, Track of Champions. Did that help you think, at Eldora? Is there any similarities there? I mean,
boy, I don't know. It's real different.
Yep.
But Fonda's definitely a challenging track. It took me a while to just kind of define my skill set and be good at Fonda, and just overcoming challenges and making the right decisions. And Fonda, there's you got to make about 100,000 decisions a lap. There's a lot of different lanes. There's a lot of ways around the track, and it just helps. It's a tough, challenging track. That's what I tell Jess every week. When she struggles, and I just keep telling her it's tough. It's a really, really, really hard racetrack. It's very fun, but it's very, very technical and hard. It takes a long time to figure it out, and that helps no matter where you go racing, whether it's in the truck on pavement or Eldora with the modified in the truck, and when we go to other racetracks. So it's cool. It's that's why it's lasted so long. That's why it does get the fan support, because the racing's good, and it's good, hard, fast racing. So it's a good product.
Yeah, and of course, a good friend of yours, Brett Dale, who took over the Speedway this year, has really it's just been phenomenal. And a lot of the critics said, it'll be good for first couple of weeks or whatever. We'll see how it stayed all the way through. The crowds have been there. As a fan of Fonda, your home track now, that as a racer, how does that feel? I'm not saying it was a totally empty place before, but certainly we have 4 to 5 times more people there now than it was. And I talked to other drivers about it, and they said it's a lot more fun to race in front of a crowd.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and it's a lot more fun when you can get there at hot lap at 6 o'clock, and by 9:30 you're putting the car back on the trailer, and it in one piece. So yeah. He's him and Craigie Hansen have done, and obviously Mike Perillo is big time involved too with the track prep, but they've done a good job trying to get it straightened out and trying to get an even grade back into it. And it's getting closer and closer every week. It's not going to happen overnight, and Brett doesn't really have the resources to bring in a bunch of equipment or put a bunch of clay on instantly. But he's done well this year, and he's made some money so he can reinvest. And I know his next step is to bring a bunch of clay in and kind of resurface it a little bit and bring it back up to grade. So that'll be good. That'll be good too moving forward.
I know this because we're on Dirt Track Racing Network and on your face page, so we had a ton of people watching here. But for somebody that may not, obviously if they're on their fan page, they have been a student of yours, so they know all the stories. But going back to your early days at Ransomville, which we probably ought to throw there right now. You're heading back tomorrow night, and I know some people are wondering what happened. I didn't go to Maryville, which is kind of its sister track, but you had some issues with the hauler. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have a little bit of an issue going on with the truck again. Where I think we got something going on where it's using water. Hopefully it's not a head gasket, but an EGR cooler or deal.
Yep.
So brought that into the shop today, and we're planning on just doing Ransomville with Jess's hauler, and the transmission took a crap in that on the way to Fonda Saturday.
Okay.
So thanks our friend and neighbor Ansel Collins, he hooked it up to his truck and got Jess's trailer down there. But talked to Michael Coffey Sr. up at Mangino Chevrolet, and he's let us borrow a dually to haul Jess's trailer out
Oh,
to
great.
Ransomville.
Yep.
So yeah, everything worked out. You know, it was awesome. It was a really, really nice gesture of them, and got to give them obviously a plug. If you're in the market for a vehicle, go see Mangino's, because they definitely help out racers. And you know, when Adam McAuliffe heard that we're having a problem, he says, you know, Mangino's, you know, would probably let you borrow something to get you down the road and back for a race, and they sure did. So we're pretty excited to have the support of them and go racing tomorrow back to Ransomville. It would have been weird, you know. It would have been like the first year of not running at least one race at Ransomville in pretty much my entire life. So pretty excited to get there tomorrow.
Yeah, and talk about it. That's where I was going at. And by the way, I bought my last vehicle at Mangino, so I'm on page.
There you go.
But and they're great people. Actually, one of the Manginos, Mike Coffey, is married to the Manginos that run the one in Amsterdam, and his son, of course, runs over at Albany, Saratoga. Just won his first career win in the Sportsman Tour 3 weeks ago. So they are a racing group. So yes, head down to Mangino's. We'll give them a free plug. That's for sure. They deserve it. But heading back to home, Ransomville. For those of people who don't know, and there's probably not any, but just it's always a great story. You were born, you know, well, I'm not saying you were born at the track, but you certainly spent most of your life there, your young life. You started right out selling programs and selling tickets and all that other stuff, or before you were old enough to drive the water truck, or did you get in?
Yeah, I started out in the tower. My dad was the race director when I was a little kid, so I started out running the lap counter when I was 5-6 years old, and did that. So it was a pretty awesome job where you get to watch the races, have one of the best seats in the house, right next to the announcers and the scorers, and I learned shorthand and longhand scoring at an early age, and
Yep.
you know, that whole other side of the sport. So and as I got older, you know, moved on to the lawnmowers and weed whackers and cleaning the shitters and everything else that goes along with running a racetrack. So it was great. It was a lot of fun. I got to work alongside with my uncles and my grandfather and my cousins, and you know, we had a lot of fun summers there. It was a great way to grow up and learn about the sport of racing and you know, the ins and outs, and that was it. Sold programs and did all that kind of fun stuff. So it was really, really cool.
Was there ever any doubt that that's what you wanted to be, was a race car driver?
No, never. But making it all happen and getting was the doubt. You know,
Right.
Started in a go-kart when I was like 9, and then started in the TQ midgets out there at Lancaster. Went with racing for friends with my grandfather Harry Macy and Hal Lawrence and Mel Rabb, and started with those guys, and then it was just, you know, kind of one thing led to another, and got a call from Mike Maroney to drive his modified, and it went from there. And a lot of great car owners I've drove for the last 10-15 years, and that's it's kind of all culminated with this truck win. And there's a lot of people involved in getting just myself to that level. To getting somebody like Chris Larson and the Halmar group to notice what we're doing and get behind us and bump us up another steps. So a lot of thanks go out to a lot of great car owners.
Yeah, I know, and we had talked about them before when we had you on the show. Of course, ones that we remember, a lot of the ones that when you came to Fonda, Roger Heroux, of course, and then Tad Parks, and I know Tad. I remember these words, and it wasn't that long ago when he said, "Damn," he says, "I hope this kid can find somebody that can take him to the next level, because he is a talent. He needs to go on," and that happened. And so Tad was a little bit of a foreseer there, I guess. And Tad is still a good friend, that's for sure. And
absolutely. I talked to Tad and Tommy Cohen. The Madsons. Everybody that I drove for. I've only got fired by Madsons and Dave Thompson, and I think Roger wanted to fire me a couple times, but he kind of almost never really did. And we're still friends, and it's cool. It's just a real strong group of people.
Right. And that, now switching over to, because certainly the truck series race was the big happening this week. Obviously, when you winning at Fonda's not a big deal, but maybe the way you did it. Well, before I go to the trucks, how about that? You've been pretty much noted for your high ride to top to the front. I guess with the exception of that one night, the one you wish you hadn't when Rocky got by you on the bottom. But that's kind of what you did on Saturday night. The car seemed to be tremendous no matter where it went. And when was it? Just those last few laps when you saw the bottom was coming around, or the top was going away, or what was going on there? Because all of a sudden
the track started out a lot faster than I thought it was going to be. Obviously down in 3 and 4 you can't really see 1 and 2. So when we rolled out there into the pace laps, and 1 and 2 had a ton of grip on the top. So I was too tight. Jess was way too tight to start, and it was fast. There was I think we were running 6th or 7th or 8th or somewhere in there, and it was a whole line. Just a train ripping the top just so wide open. So it definitely changed a lot in 30 laps, and it wasn't until after lap 20 when the top started to slow down a little bit in 1 and 2, and then the top in 3 and 4 just kind of got so far out. I was able to get down on the bottom and start making some time.
Yeah, and I say it was kind of similar, and we're getting a lot of questions about Eldora here, so we better switch over to that too. But I said that was kind of an interesting deal, because it looked like I don't know, that's probably about the 5th or 6th race that you've won that I said, there's no way he's going to be running down. And you've been able to the last 5 or 6 laps, and you've seen it go the other way too. And a couple of guys have got you, but that race with you and Matt Shepard there for the big show a couple of weeks ago, or not the big show, but that was a big show that weekend. Was just a great race for the fans. The fans got to see a lot of good stuff at Fonda this year. But going to Eldora, somebody want to know if you enjoyed. It's got to be a Canadian. You want to know if you enjoy hoisting the Eldora Trophy like the Stanley Cup.
Oh, absolutely! Yeah.
Yeah, that was. Are you still there? Oop, you're cutting out just a little bit. Nope, I lost him. All right, hopefully he'll give us a call back here. He started to skip. There we go. Okay, we got you again, I think.
Sorry, there, I had a little phone issue here at the shop.
Oh, okay. No,
but no, definitely enjoyed hoisting the Stanley Cup. And that was awesome. Obviously I'm from our area here now, but representing all the great Canadian race fans and growing up in Southern Ontario, so representing that. But that group as well was definitely special.
You get that was my question. I saw the other day. You get to keep that gold shovel. Have you got that?
I have it right now.
Okay.
But that's I go. For now, I have it. Kind of like the panel of the Batmobile that I actually had in my basement for a couple months.
Okay.
It's going to make its way down to Helmar headquarters and go on the wall in Chris's office.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and we got to talk about Chris too in just a moment. But people just want to know. They were talking about how would you rate the Eldora track? Obviously, you won, so usually guys that win think it's pretty darn good. But it looks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's always, if you win the race, you're not allowed to make any complaints. Right.
Right. But was it pretty much like it has been all the last 3 years you've been there, or was it a little bit different this year?
It's a little different. It's got a couple different characteristics that a couple little humps that are different, and it's a little sandier than what I remembered when we were there a couple years ago. Especially with the modified. The truck race it sealed off, but the modified race it was pretty dusty. So I was actually talking to Roger Slack, the promoter there, after the race, and he said, "Scoop up as much clay as you want to take out of here, because we're bringing in clay and going to resurface it." So that'll be something to check out.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. But and like you say, Fonda's going to do the same thing. I know that Brett will find something great to get in there. As far as the Eldora race, you documented several times. your crew chief said that it was your call whether to stay out or not. And I know it's a 50-50 deal. I mean, as it turned out, you were a hero, but if it had went the other way, obviously, without all the cautions, I know I talked to you on Saturday night. You said you had 2-3 gallons of fuel left. You were kind of figuring on it was going to be, it has been in the past, lots of cautions toward the end. So you weren't, obviously had to be concerned, but what was your thought process?
I was definitely concerned, but track position was so crucial at the beginning. There was, 5, 6 of us that were pretty fast. Briscoe, Sheldon, Moffat. There was, and anybody who started on the outside got a good run, and the guy on the inside just would get buried.
Yep.
So when we were able to get back to second there, running with Briscoe towards the end of the second stage. And the race never really got rolling. We'd run a handful of laps and a caution would come out, and then you'd burn up a bunch of laps.
Right.
Doing the thing, getting everybody back in line, and it was just like the way it was shaken out. It was like an Eastern States 200. It was like a Syracuse deal where you can kind of see the trend, the way the race is going after the first 50 laps, and kind of make a decision. And just when I was getting in the truck before the race, Tripp leaned over and he said, we could do this without pitting. And I said, really? Because I didn't think there was any chance. We were going to pit after the first stage and then try to, get track position at the end of the second stage to stay out. But he said, if it goes, the way it could go, there's a chance. So at the end of the second stage, he just came on it and said, if Briscoe stays out, obviously stay with him. But if he comes in, come with him. Or you can do what you want too. And so, it wasn't really a doubt in my mind. I was going to stay out for the track position and, just keep conserving as much as I could, and it worked out. So it was good. That's
were you?
The races are won.
They were, yes, obviously. That was, and I'm certainly they weren't doing that. I guess to make us fans nervous, but they kept flashing at a lot of that towards the end. Well, Stuart Friesen is. Had more second place finishes than anybody and never won a race, and they listed it, and there was a bunch of great guys in there that had finished second. But you had more seconds than any of them. But it was almost like they're saying, he's probably not going to make it because he's got all these second places. But it was nerve-wracking. I'm sure it had to be twice that in a cockpit. But and with all those restarts and like you said, that's where the race is won and lost, as well as staying out was the restart. Because Briscoe would come up through, but he had several skirmishes. Would actually ended up finishing his run to the front because of like you said, the traffic was pretty hard to get through.
Yeah, definitely. And when you pit and get yourself in the back, that's when you open the door for things to happen, and we didn't want to do that either.
Yeah, but that was so there really wasn't any question in your mind then when the time came when, as soon as Briscoe ducked in, you said, nah, we're staying out.
Yeah, that's pretty much, there's a lot of questions, you never know, but it worked out.
It definitely did, and it was just an awesome race to watch. Somebody was wanting to know that, were you turning the truck on and off under those cautions? They were trying to say that on TV, but it was kind of really hard to tell if you were or not.
Yeah. You can, they free roll pretty easy, so I could shut it off, coming out of turn 2, and then kind of let it coast all the way to 4 before I had to refire it. And that's how I kind of learned to do the fuel mileage deal, just by watching guys on TV do it, and that's how you do it.
Is that the hardest thing? The situation, or the switch from dirt to asphalt, that you have found is on dirt. Once you get out in the race car, obviously your crew guys do a super job. You always have great equipment. It's well prepared, so you don't have to worry about that so much. But with the trucks on the asphalt, with these long races where you have to rely, the crews come in, and you've lost several races because of pit issues, one way or the other, whether it's your fault, their fault, doesn't matter. It still was part of it. Is that the hardest adjustment for you to make, being your own?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been tough, making pit stops, green flag pit stops, and then and then everything else that goes along with it. A modified or a sprint car, you just get pushed off or fire it up and put it in gear, and you go. You got maybe a brake bias to play with. That's about it. And these things got you got different fans, and even on the short tracks, different fans do different things.
Mm-hmm.
As far as cooling the bead or cooling the tire or cooling brakes, and you can split them and do to heat up a tire, and there's just a lot more that goes into it, and there's a lot more to pay attention to. So you're absolutely right. That's been a really hard thing for me to learn. And I didn't grow up with that style of racing. So it's trying to teach an old dog new tricks here.
Is an asphalt? They always have said for years in the asphalt modified cars that the car is 90%, whereas on dirt it may be 70% because you guys can do some more stuff on dirt, and whereas asphalt, if the car's off, you're in trouble. You can't can't make up for it.
A lot of the times you're kind of along for the ride. You can push it to an extent, but it's hard to take a car that's not capable of doing anything and making it do something.
Right. And did it well, before we get to that point, as far as we're going to have Mike on a little bit later on in the show, but Mike Bruno, Devil's Bowl, is having a race that you're going to be at next Sunday for autism awareness. And excuse me, I know a lot of press was made, and you guys certainly deserve it. You and Jess, and of course Ivan Joslin, almost 16 grand you raised for autism awareness and for the Crossroads group that you take Parker to. We're not getting into the whole nitty gritty of the thing, but how big a deal is it for you guys to have someplace like Crossroads to take Parker to?
Oh yeah, it's been excellent. It's been night and day in our lives and his life. He went from at a year and a half, not really being able to communicate and being frustrated and struggling to, now he doesn't shut up. So it's been great. Thanks to great therapists and thanks to Crossroads and everybody that's been involved, and him being diagnosed with autism early, or being diagnosed on the autism spectrum,
right?
Is the right way to say it. Early in life, a lot earlier than most, was pretty lucky, and he's been able to catch right up to speed. So by the time he hits kindergarten here in a couple of years, he'll should have no problems, which is just awesome. And with our platform, with the truck and with the modified and with racing, we've been able to see first being able to go to Crossroads and see the programs and see everything and how they need extra help, and then being able to use the racing platform to do fundraisers and the chicken barbecue at Fonda and Ivan and all the things they put together for the raffles and stuff. It was just unbelievable. Kelly's Meat Market was big on donating the chicken dinner, so that kept the cost down of what we had to put out, and it just added to more. And then we sold, I think it was 500 dinners or something like that, which was crazy, which we didn't know how it was going to go. And our friend Charlie Bartlett cooked all the dinners for us, and is one heck of a cook, and they were amazing, and it was just a good deal, and all our thanks go towards the race fans that stepped up and helped out, and all our volunteers and everybody that helped along with Jess and Ivan and everybody, and it was just a good deal. Yeah,
it's been amazing, and of course with the truck, with that deal where you sold the puzzle squares, that was a fantastic gesture on. I'm sure Chris, said it was fine, and raised a ton of money on that as well. So it's nice to see that the race community is not only just there to watch you guys go fast and have some fun, but it's a big family.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the strong points about racers. They'll help other racers out, and it doesn't matter if you were arguing or whatever the week before, or mixing it up on the track. 9 times out of 10, a couple weeks later, everybody's back having beers together, and it just everything kind of goes full circle. So it's been cool. Obviously growing up in racing, made a lot of great relationships, and it's cool to be able to help each other out and raising money and fundraising and all that kind of stuff. So it's been neat.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of comments on Parker, and P-Man is, of course, is his nickname that everybody's given him, and knows that he stole the show on Thursday night.
Yes, he certainly did.
It was
And he learned his dance moves from Donald Duck.
Donald Duck. Okay.
Shake your tail feather dance. Hands up and then spinning around and shaking his tail feathers. So
I mean, that was just the crowning glory. That was great. That was really great.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. He was pretty excited. He's, obviously he gets it now, and he spends a lot of time at racetracks, and he loves going at racing, as he calls it. And every time I come in and see him, he says, "Daddy, did you win? Daddy, did you win?" And then when we finally won a truck race, he was one of the happiest guys there. That's for sure. Yeah.
Now, has he been? I know he hasn't gone to all the races, but he's been to quite a few of the truck races.
Yeah, he's been to a few. Sometimes it's tough, with the traveling. So if there's connecting flights and stuff, maybe him and Jess, it's kind of easier to stay home. But the races that are close by that we can drive to, him and Jess are there all the time, so it's good. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I know that we said the transition of going from dirt to and back and forth. Of course, you had a couple days this week from Thursday to Saturday, but I just me being an old fan of racing, it seems when you get back and you're modified that you really act like you're really having fun. It's a little bit of the pressure, especially now that you got to win. Pressure will be off a little bit. So, but you still, I mean, obviously that's what you grew up doing. So this is probably a dumb question, but you still enjoy going around in the modified probably more than the truck, even though the truck, pays the bills. That's for sure.
Oh, you can't say that, Ed.
No.
It's all fun. It doesn't matter if I'm spending a day at a racetrack, whether it's dirt or pavement.
Okay.
The days on pavement tracks are a little hotter, a little longer.
Yep.
But it's all good. It's not a bad way to make a living, and it's a lot of fun being able to travel and see all these different places and different racetracks. It's awesome.
Yeah, and you got, like I say, you deserve it, and just like Tad had said a couple of years back, if you could find somebody. How did that, and you just said maybe earlier that you got noticed. How did Chris Larson ever get hooked up with Stuart Friesen?
Well, Willie Ochmoody kind of put the whole deal together. Obviously, he was racing with Chris and sponsored by Chris, and then started the whole Helmar racing team a couple of years before I got there.
Mm-hmm.
But I met Willie at a TO chassis seminar in 2014, maybe 2015.
Yep.
And he just said, "Oh, you got to come run one of my cars." And I didn't really know Willie. I not from down there, the Ackford, Newburgh area. So just know he's sponsored by Helmar, and at Eastern States at the end of the year in 2015, Willie brought Chris over and made the introduction, and we talked and just kind of talked a little bit, and we didn't talk about racing together. We just kind of talked about life and things, and kind of where he was at with his race team, and that led to a meeting a couple weeks later, and then it all kind of started together. Tad Park stayed involved for the first year, and Jeff Daly stayed involved for the first year, and it's been good. And he just had this when we first sat down and met, he said, it would be really cool to do that Eldora dirt truck race. And I said, yeah, right. Like, okay,
Yeah.
It would be cool, but it's never going to happen.
Right.
My NASCAR dreams got kind of put on the back burner, the way, way, way back burner, in like 2008, 2009.
Right.
When I met a shoot team, and they were helping me out, and they're like, kind of look at, pull the reins back. It doesn't happen. It's tough. They had just got out of the Busch North Series, and they're like, you're way better off, chasing these modified races and trying to do it that way. And I said, okay. And then, Chris came along, and we ended up doing that first race, and, he unified our race team and made things a lot easier for myself. Able to, work on all the cars out of one shop now, and it's been awesome. He's been a great car owner, a great friend, and it was just that meeting back in 2015.
Well, and a lot of the fans here have seen Chris from here and there, and I know that he was there at Eldora. That was great. But they don't realize. Yes, the fellow has the means to do whatever he wants to do, and we're so lucky here in the Northeast that he decided to. He's been a race fan, I guess, for years. I mean, he grew up going to Orange County, I don't know why or how he ever got involved with, taking over Orange County now and now sponsoring you and all this other stuff. But he seems like, I've talked to him just a couple of times, but and you talk to him a lot now and spent a lot of time with him. He just seems like a down-to-earth guy he's got a hell of a business sense. There's no doubt about that. But he's just a big race fan.
Absolutely. He's a great guy. Doesn't flaunt it, and he works very, very, very hard to be able to provide for all our race teams and do what he does at Middletown. He doesn't get to go to a lot of the truck races because he's either traveling or he just can't get out of the office. So that's kind of a bummer because he likes to be at all of them, but he only comes to very few. He's probably only ever seen me race dirt at Middletown and Albany, Saratoga once or twice. So other than watching, he watches online now. Like the online coverage of everything is awesome. So he's able to watch a lot more than he did before. But he's a race fan. He loves it. He loves being able to help the sport grow, and that's what they're doing. Down at Middletown with the new surface and everything, all the new infrastructure they're putting in there. He's just trying to do his part of making it a better place for the next guy.
And you haven't raced on a new surface yet, right? Or did you get down there for a practice?
I haven't. No, I've seen some video. I've talked to my teammates Allison Ricky and Matt Janiak about it, and Boniface and those guys. But yeah, I haven't been down there yet, but really looking forward to it. They say everything I've heard is positive. It was a little dusty the other night in hot lap, so I guess it sealed up and blew off, and got good for the features. So a lot of positivity about the new surface.
Yeah, in a way, it sounds like it's different, all the way different. But obviously, Prego's got it figured out already. That's for sure. So we'll have to see. But you're heading down there just 2 weeks from now. Is the big one, the one you guys have been advertising on the truck, and how did that come about with you and Sheldon Creed now, who finished second behind you at Eldora, are going to do a little...
So that was something Chris kind of put together behind my back. I had no idea. So I went to, I forget what truck race it was, Kentucky, and Tom Ackerman, who's the competition director at GMS, came in the trailer and he says, we got to go talk to NASCAR, talk to the series director, and see if they'll allow you guys to do like a match race at Middletown. I said, what are you talking about? He says, Chris got this idea that he would love, take the Eldora trucks and do this. Well, we can't call it a race. NASCAR had asked us not to call it a race.
Okay.
But it's just a hot lap kind of exhibition deal where we're going to run some laps together and see what the trucks will do at Middletown. So we started putting it together, and then it worked out good. Sheldon and I ended up running 1-2 at Eldora, and our trucks weren't all that beat up, so we're just going to pound the dents out a little bit. And after Bristol, the hauler is going to go back to the shop, the 52 hauler, and then both trucks will get loaded in that, and then it's going to turn around and head back north. So it was kind of tough to figure out, the logistics of it all and how to make it happen. It definitely wasn't easy, but Tripp's going to come up. My tire guy, Kevin White, who's from Delaware, modified racer, he's going to come along, and Sheldon, and we're working on putting Sheldon in a modified too. So well, pretty cool. He's been asking me all year about running a car, and he comes from short course off-road racing in California, so like the trucks and stuff. And he's a really real good racer. ARCA champion last year, and so we're going to come do a little deal, and then get him in a modified hopefully too. So it should be pretty exciting.
Yes, and everybody's thinking, well, maybe Chris is thinking about having a truck race someday at Middletown, which, hey, as much of a fan he is and what he can do, I wouldn't say maybe not. So it could happen.
It can definitely happen. There's a lot of things that, it probably wouldn't be on the radar for the next couple of years, but there's a lot of things that have to happen. You have to have a helipad for, Mercy Flight type stuff. You need to have a on-site infirmary type thing, which Fonda has, which is where Brett Deo's office is at Fonda, is right in the infirmary, so actually Fonda could probably have one too.
There we go. That would be great. That would be super. So if you found out that you've been racing, like say, a couple of seasons now as a regular with the trucks, that obviously you guys don't travel together as much as maybe modified guys do here in the Northeast. And of course, you grew up with all these guys, so you know them well. But are racers pretty much racers? Have you made some friends? Not that racers. Some racers said we don't want to be friends because it's tough when you have to make a move that you wouldn't want to do with a friend or whatever. But have you are you feel as though you're kind of part of the group now, or are you still that dirt guy from Northeast?
No, I'm definitely a little bit more part of the group. Made some good friends. I'm real good friends with Tyler Young, who owns, obviously Tyler Dipple's trucks, and he's a cool guy. And Crafton and Sauter have been cool, and it's a good group. The truck series is neat. It's a little bit different group and different deal than the Xfinity and the Cup. It's a little bit more laid back and easy going. But it's fun, it's a good group of racers. You got the young kids coming up through the KBM stuff, and it's neat. It's a neat mixture of people from all over the country, just doing what they love and trying to get up the ladder even farther. So it's been a lot of fun.
Well, and we can't say, I was going to ask you this, and there's been about 5 or 6 people on Facebook want to know if things came to the right direction, and I don't know if you and Chris have even talked about it, but would you think about moving into either Xfinity or going all the way to Cup? I mean, it's they're all expensive. It doesn't matter where you go, but is that something on the radar? Like you said a couple of years back, you didn't think you were going to be where you're at now, but
I don't know. It's hard to say. I would love the chance to race anything, moving up the ladder.
Yep.
I would take a shot at it, but it's tough. It's very sponsorship driven. We've had some conversations, about with some different teams, and if we had maybe one more partner come on board and try to help push it, it might something might happen, but you never know. I would definitely. Not going to say no to that though, but it'd be a lot of fun.
Well, I know your fans here would say no because then the race would be on Saturday and you'd be missing.
That would be the only thing. It would probably limit my modified racing a little bit. But now with as many midweek races as we have here in the Northeast, you probably wouldn't miss too many.
Yeah. Well, speaking about that, coming up, obviously you got to be really looking forward. I mean, obviously it had a great last week, but this week heading to your stomping grounds tomorrow night, so you're definitely going to be a favorite to pick that one up. Devil's Bowl, I don't know. It's kind of how many races have you raced at Devil's Bowl? You must have been over there a couple times.
I've never been to Devil's Bowl before. Okay. That will be another first.
Okay.
On Sunday.
Okay. And I'm guessing that. Well, do you know what motor combination you're going to take over there? That's what somebody wanted to ask. Because you've never been there before, I don't know if I've certainly talked to guys who competed there. What do you think is going to be the hot ticket over there? Big small block or big block or?
I don't know. I have to kind of start thinking about it. Right now we're just I'm sitting here watching Tommy work, getting the car ready for Rancho tomorrow. We had a little bit of a motor problem with our primary car at Eldora, so we had to go to a backup car. So we've been thrashing here, getting that motor back to Billy, which turns out it checked out okay. It was a spark plug issue, so that was good. But we're just kind of thrashing right now, so I don't know if we're going to put Tommy, what are we going to put in for Devil's Bowl? Are we putting spec motor in or big block?
We're going to run a big block. No, we're going to put spec.
Tommy just contradicted himself, so I don't know yet.
And Tommy, of course, is Tommy Conboy, who is a full-time employee. He's the guy that's there every day doing stuff that you can't do when you're gone.
Doing all my work. Doing everything that I should be doing.
Yeah.
I sit here and talk on the phone all day long.
Yeah. Now, has that hurt? You think that?
He doesn't want to show his cards, he says.
That's fair enough.
Brett Hearn might be listening.
Yes. Yeah. Brett's going to take the 602 over because he won with that last year. So
that says Brett's taking a 602. That's what he wants.
but so that'll be a first. So it'll be fun. That's for sure going over there. But in the meantime, heading out to Michigan at a place that, well, who knows? probably should have won last year. So you got to be feeling pretty damn good about going this week for the trucks.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be able to walk into Michigan with a little bit more pep in our step, and I'll tell you, I've known Tripp now 3 years, and the last 2 days he's been like a new man. It's like relearning a friend because he's been more relaxed and mellowed out, and everybody can go in there with a clear head now and not have that that nagging pain in our butt of not actually having a win. So now we can go in there as winners and get back to work.
Yeah, I say it's going to be a great week, and of course all the big races. It's $10,000 to win, which is big for dirt, on Sunday night, and down at the Middletown the following week for the $100,000. It's just blows everybody's mind, the $100,000 to win a modified race. It's and certainly for a guy like you that races for a living, that's something. Chris. Chris won't give you a discount if you win. I don't think.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope not. That would be unbelievable. But it's definitely going to be a special event. Kicking off with the Tim McGraw concert.
Yeah, that's great.
On Wednesday, and then rolling into 3 big days of big block racing. So there's some small block races in there too. I'm not exactly sure of 100% of the format, but if you go to Orange County, follow them on social media and all that stuff, it's all there.
Yep. And obviously, I know the answer to that. Somebody just asked, "Are you going to be at Fonda Saturday?" Obviously not, because Michigan is Saturday, right?
Unless there's some sort of rain delay or something. I won't be able to make it. I think my flight lands at like 9:30 in Albany, so I'll be landing in Albany just probably as the modified features going green.
And that's
close, but not close enough.
Yeah, and that's been a whole different deal too. This travel deal. Sometimes, like you say, close enough or whatever. You've been able to get the family there. But now you got your PR guy, Chad. He's your helmet carrier, and he makes sure you get it to every assignment on time. Is that his job?
Yeah, kind of. He takes care of all our social media and a lot of the updates and stuff you see. It's just he's been really, really good with that, and keeping people informed, keeping people in the loop, and using all the different platforms now. It's the game has changed in the last couple of years, and that social media presence is very important. People want their information and they want it now, and having a guy like Chad there to help do that. He works with Jake, that's at Middletown.
Yep.
They work pretty close on different projects, and he's been pretty cool. He's been a good friend and a good travel buddy. So it's cool to be traveling the country with him.
Yeah, and it's nice to see what it kind of brings it down to the level of just the average, not the average guys. Because certainly you guys aren't average. You're traveling all over the country, racing cars or trucks, and to see you enjoying different places, different beverages from time to time from different places. But you also have been keeping up. So you think that's the other added, not that you didn't do a lot with the modified stuff too, but that's whole part of, getting yourself out there, I guess, just to, so people get on Facebook and say, oh yeah, this is what Friesen's doing this weekend, or all this other stuff.
Yeah, and that's, and there's different, marketing stuff that goes along with that too, instead of just a sponsor wanting to, buy an ad on TV or on radio, there's ways to incorporate that into the social media too, and you see a lot of that happening. It's kind of turned where the TV really isn't, screen number one in everybody's lives. First, they're on their phone, they check the weather, they check the news right on the phone,
right.
Their social media, and then the TV is kind of a second to that. So it's the way society's kind of changing.
Right, and somebody want to know if Jess is going to run the bowl Sunday. I'd be guessing no, but that's just figuring that what the holler situation is.
I'm guessing no right now too, Ed. Okay. She heard a motor there at Fonda at that big race and has got a big block, and she's not a fan of it. So
yes,
right now, so.
They haven't got that one back yet, right?
We haven't. No.
It's that was a shame. That was one of the questions I had. You and Rocky had a great year at Fonda as well. had the option of different motors, you have one of kind of each of what you need, but you decided to go with the smaller to the 363 for the weight gain. Do you feel as though that the 410 or whatever it is just too much for Fonda?
It's tough. With the 410 with the extra 100 pounds of weight.
Okay.
If you were going to weigh 2,500,
Yep.
we kind of felt like we're just better off either having a big block or being the 360 deal. So it seems like with the way the track's been racing, that the 360 deal is a little less horsepower, a little easier to hook up, and it's been. I don't know if it's been an advantage. It seems like it kind of takes us a little bit longer to get to the front. Where when we had the big block before, and it's kind of the same deal that happened with Tad a couple of years ago when we had the steelhead small block motor and we were able to win a bunch of races, but it was tough. And then we had a problem one night and ran the big block, and it was like, oh man, that's what you got to have, and then we all went back to running big block. So you never know. You put some new clay down, or things start happening, and the moisture starting to swim back in the track. Maybe the big blocks won't be a bad way to go.
Okay, and that's what people talk about, having fun and whatever. And you talk to guys that run big blocks like yourself over the years, and been very successful at it. They really hate to see the big block go, but do you see that down the road that you've been successful with both, but would you really hate to see the big blocks kind of phase out and everybody go to these small blocks?
Yeah, I would. I'm an old school guy. I like big block racing. It's pretty cool to travel around the country to different tracks and be a big block modified guy. There's really no divisions of racing that still run big block motors other than our modifieds up here and the super modifieds. So
right.
That's kind of the the old school approach. It's kind of neat, the history of it. But that being said, the motors are really starting to price themselves out. It's just getting crazy to put together a good big block. And these small block motors, you're able to pick them up from late model guys, and they're a lot cheaper to build. And it's kind of been a little bit better deal as far as the dollars and cents of it goes.
Yeah, I know. We're talking to several guys, and they hate to see it because they all like the big block, and that kind of makes the big blocks unique here in the Northeast so far. But we'll have to see. And again, congratulations on everything this last week and for the whole season. I say you guys giving back with this autism thing, which coming up on Sunday night, of course, at Devil's Bowl will be more of that. We'll see what the Devil's Bowl folks can come up with to help that whole deal out. But it's just been you had a stretch there where you just had bad luck going on, so you lost your string of wins. Every time you came out, you were winning, and then a little break, but then you had a big bust here with Fonda and Malta and the whole 9 yards. So it's back in your wheelhouse again. Is it strange going to a racetrack and figuring that, I'm the guy to beat every time, and then find out that, well, geez, I'm getting beat every once in a while. But you've been doing it long enough.
It's just how it goes.
Yeah, and Shepard's going through that now, so it's weird that the Rudolph kid. It's great to see guys. I mean, for a guy like you that's going to do this for a living for a while, it's great that we have young guys like yourself. Now you're starting to get a little bit in the middle here now. Can't call you a young guy anymore, I guess, compared to some of the guys you are. But you got Rudolph and Matt Williamson and all these young guys coming up and really doing some
EJ McAuliffe.
Yeah, yes, EJ. Yeah, EJ.
That's my favorite young guy right now.
Right. They got to put him in. Put him in with a real sportsman, or get him a real motor and get him in the modifieds and let him.
I tell him every week. Yeah.
Well, it was good to see that, and the other thing, as far as how much I get guys telling me things back way and forward about the DKM deal. How much are you involved with that, and are just giving your feedback and input? And I know Dave and Kyle and Eric and all those guys are smart racers and engineers and a whole 9 yards. But you feel as though you've put a lot of your own, expertise into those DKM chassis?
Yeah, I don't know about all that. They're a lot smarter than I am with some stuff, but
Yeah.
It's been cool.
Yeah.
We started this deal a couple of years ago with them, and Bicknell and Troyer and Teal have all been around 30 plus years. So
Yep.
for them to start out, be the relative newcomers, and watch their business grow and unfold. They just moved into a new facility up there. What do you want to call that? Broad Alban?
Yes.
Up in
Well, it's
Broad Alban?
Hageman, actually.
Hageman, yeah,
That's
that's up your neck of the woods, right?
Yep. I live in Broad Alban, and Hageman is right. Yes. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a new shop.
Me and Tommy, this is my first time I went by the shop today and checked it out up there, and it's a huge deal that they're fixing up and trying to build cars and build this whole deal. So the future's bright. It's not going to happen overnight, but they definitely are willing to put in the work. So it's been cool to be a part of all that.
Yeah, you've said, do you have any TOs at all anymore, or you still have?
No, we sold my last one to Roger Hru last year, and then he sold it to somebody else. So I'm not even sure where it went to.
Yep. Well, it was. I say it's been a pretty good year, right? And it got real good on Thursday because that was off the back, and I said it made everybody here in the Northeast breathe a sigh of relief, because every week people will come in and say, "Damn." But this week, and I was shocked, and you're probably not shocked. I'm traveling across the country and meeting new people around, but people I never thought cared anything about auto racing or truck racing or whatever came to the shop and said, it finally happened. And most of them I know are baseball people. And I said, well, the Red Sox Lou or I went, no, I said, Stewie finally got a truck race. I said, okay. And so there's a lot of people out there that have been following you, and I know you know that, but it was just a great night on Thursday night. That's for sure. My dog's still looking for whoever was hollering outside there someplace, but it was a great night.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks so much. I know you got tons of things to do, and I know you just watch, make sure Tommy doesn't make any mistakes there. But we want to thank you. We've had people that hounded me all year long. I said, well, when he gets a truck race, we're going to do it, and you did it. And hopefully it won't be the last one. I'm sure Michigan's looking awful good, I think, this week. So
I hope so. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate all the support from everybody, and we'll see you down the road.
Take care. Thank you, Sto. All right.
Yeah, bye.
Stuart Friesen. Finally got to us a little late, so we ran a little long. And in the meantime, we had one of our other guests on the line waiting very patiently. Scott, thank you for waiting.
No problem.
Okay. I don't even know what the heck time I got here. Scott picked up a first feature win in over a year. Last year, you said that was the first year that since you've been racing. And let's back that up just a little bit. I know we've had you on the show before, but some new listeners. We got a bunch of people listening for Stuart tonight, so you got a big audience. How long?
So I thought they were here for me, not Stuart.
Well, yeah, I did have a few people said, "Geez, you ever going to get to Scott?" I said,
No,
but
I get it.
Yeah, no. How obviously grew up in a racing family like Stuart did. Your dad, the legendary Kim Gdol, of course, who's been racing as long as I've been talking, and that's a long time. So obviously, so did your dad get you started in go-karts, or did you just automatically jump into big cars when you were old enough?
No, that's actually how it happened. My father, I'm sure you remember Argyle. I think the real name was Northridge Speedway,
yes,
maybe,
yes.
when it was opening.
Yep.
They had a big barbecue to try to keep the place open at one time, and it was like a car show / open house, and they had some carts there, and there was actually a cart for sale that I sat in all day during the cookout, and I think Dad was enjoying himself with some beverages, and by the end of the day, he talked himself right into buying that thing for me, and from there, it's been ever since.
Yep. And it's kind of been a rocky up and down the last couple of seasons. Got got a hold of some great sponsors that helped you out and had some good years with them. And then last year, one of them decided that no, they wanted to go in a different direction, and kind of left you in the winter, kind of wondering if you were going to bother or even going to be able to race this year. And lo and behold, your in-laws now. Congratulations. Late now, but it's been a few months.
Thank you.
You still called her the new bride on Friday night, so we'll go with that.
Yeah.
The Stratton family getting a car ready to run over at Devil's Bowl, the 602 division, said, geez, Devil's Bowl doesn't start for a while, so we'll let you take Scott Dole.
Oh, I forgot.
And no, the you got in it, ran and looked pretty sharp, but then of course he had to start the regular season. And how did that all transpire? You ended up in in Miller's car, who I don't know. Obviously, he knew you in the past.
Yeah, we've always been friends at the racetrack, and I always say that the racetrack's one big family. I mean, it really is. You see these people all summer long, and then every year almost. And yeah, John and I had talked before, jokingly about possibly doing that. And I always used to say, when are you going to put me in one of your race cars? And last year, we actually almost did, and he didn't realize I did find a ride when I drove Brian Pesolano's car. And he basically said, well, I was going to talk to you about it then, but it just circumstances, and we left it alone. And then this year, I actually, through another friend, Dave Amy, who's friends with him, kind of we were all talking, and he's like, well, why don't you give him a shot with driving your backup if you want somebody to run it? And when he's done with Hector's car or whatnot, whatever they do, give him a chance. So that's what we did, and the rainouts really killed us to run Hector's car. I mean, my in-laws were gracious enough to give me a shot in it for a few weeks. We struggled with some motor things and ended up ironing it out at the end, which was good finally. But when that ended, he said, okay, well, let's try it. And if you want to take the backup car and get it ready at his house, went down and started working on it. And since then, been in it. We tried some different setup things with it and worked our way up to this point. And we're in good shape now.
Yeah, I would say. You've been very competitive the last couple of weeks, of course, winning on Friday night. And probably one of the best parts, and your dad reiterated that when I went over and chatted him on Friday night, it's an old car and an old motor. and so it doesn't take, well, it's always nice to have all the good stuff and all the best, but you just showed that with talent and experience that you guys have, that you can get the job done with maybe something that isn't quite as expensive.
Yeah, I mean, it's the car itself, believe it or not, is a 2007 Bowflex, TO Bowflex,
Okay.
and there's some cars in the vintage modified actually newer than them.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we were laughing about that. I said we probably should just bring a coupe body and switch it out when they're there, and I can run both. But no, the motor's a couple years old. Nothing fancy, just a dealership motor, not one of these Ingram motors. Or now I guess Enders is in the mix and stuff. Some of these bigger crates, so to speak, not bigger, but they got a little better setup in them. And so I was lucky enough to have John and his family and his crew take me in and allow me to run this. And the car's got good parts on it. It's just, it is a little bit older. Yeah. And like you said, the setup and the fact that we just keep swinging at it, and we know what kind of things we like on the car for setup. And I've been doing this long enough now. It's starting to actually feel old when you race against somebody like Derek McGrew Jr. and Buffs and stuff like that. I'm definitely not a kid anymore.
No. And of course you got the nomenclature over the last, I don't know, forever, but certainly last 5 or 6, 8 years, the high side hustler. You tend to like the top. So we asked you that, we asked everybody, why is that your preference?
since I was a kid, I've been a huge sprint car fan.
Okay.
For one.
Yep.
And them guys, they tend to use the top a lot, but I don't think that's so much it. I don't know. There's such different styles for it, and I'll do whatever works. I mean, if the bottom's working, I'll stay down there and dig. But predominantly, it feels like people are down there a lot, and crate racing's tough. It's very momentum driven. I mean, if you get on and off that gas on the bottom, it gets tough to move. When I see everybody doing that, I kind of sometimes I'll live and die by it, but I'll go up to the top and start trying to work and make some moves up there. But I don't know, the bottom you finesse it and you take your time, and the top you get up there and get the whip out and go after it. And I like doing that and like going hard in the car, so it's a lot of fun to drive when they're good. But like I said, sometimes I live and die by it, and Dad gets mad at me a little bit and says, "Was you going to ever try the bottom?" Yeah. Nights like Friday night, I didn't bother it. So
yep. No, it's like I say, 602 is a tough division because I say everybody is, quote unquote, equal pretty much motor wise, even though they all start out at 602s. There's some that have more lightweight parts and stuff in them, and whatever. There's all kinds of things, but it doesn't look it from the fans' point of view, I don't think. But I think if any fan ever went out there and drove around Albany, Saratoga, that's what we're talking about. It's a long way around the top. So you got to be, you got to be fast in order to make any gains out there. And you guys don't have the power to drive yourself through, which, not you found that out, that. Your car got fairly tight towards the end of the event, and a couple of times it didn't want to turn. So it's not like the big block where you say, okay, we'll just throw her in there and then crank it and go. But so you got to be a little more finesse with the 602s, but
for sure.
So this is what 4 years now or so you've been running the 602s. You did a short stint there?
Actually, I got thinking about that, and it's a lot longer than you think.
Okay.
Because I won the championship at Devil's Bowl in the Pro Stocks in 2005, and moved up to, at the time, the 358 Sportsman at Malta.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's when we were basically the same as modifieds,
right.
And ran 2 years, I believe, in that. And then I went to crates, I want to say maybe 08, 09-ish, and then ran for a few years. I did the pavement at Malta in the late models and the Sportsman and modifieds that year. Then went to Fonda full-time modifieds in 11, I want to say 2011. And after that, when Malta went back to dirt, I believe, is when we went back, and we got a crate motor and went crate racing basically for a couple of years, and did the modified thing again for a year, and then been back in it since probably 4 or 5 years ago. So total probably 8 years.
Okay. All right. I didn't think it had been that long. I thought that 358 was closer than that, but well, your father will tell you when you get our age, it all runs in together anyway. But
yeah, I'm sure.
But obviously it's financially that's been able, or you've been able to keep racing. If it hadn't been for 602 class, you'd probably be working on somebody's crew or helping your dad out or doing whatever it is. It's just the nature of the beast, which is fine.
Yeah, we took a swing at it. Lazaro actually allowed me to try modifieds in Albany, Saratoga.
Yep.
And that 1 year, and we were having some decent runs. It's a tough deal. It's definitely a tough deal money-wise, and we had a good motor. We had a Enders motor in the car, and ended up breaking that about 7 races in, and we had a backup motor, and that one broke a week later. So it was like our 2 good motors were gone in a matter of 3 weeks, which probably cost roughly around $30,000. And it was like Joe said, I'm buying you another GM crate.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay racing, so that's what we did.
Right. And, we were talking earlier in the show about, Mike Mahaney basically, had the same thing. Of course, his was a little bit more expensive than maybe even 30. They lost two motors this past week. So,
they've had a hell of a bad luck streak here.
Yep. And they, it's one of those, you've been there through there, I'm sure. It's one of those, when they find out what it is, it's going to say, oh, shit, we should have. But you never, and everybody goes through those times, but hopefully they'll be getting this sorted out. But anyhow, so now does Miller have another car?
The car he's driving,
Yes,
he has, and that one, and then obviously the one I'm driving,
right.
which was his backup car.
Okay.
And like I said, he offered that to me, and he said, it's nothing fancy, so I don't want you to get your hopes up here and everything like that. And I mean, we converse, we help each other now, and it's turned into a good thing. And like I said, his whole crew is great. All his guys and my guys get along. He allows my guys to come and help, and his family and all that. So it's been a good time.
So he keeps all his stuff, all the stuff there. You have to go down to his garage in.
Yeah, we got a pretty good system right now. I mean, I know I live in Bennington, and it's not quite set at my house yet where I have a garage. I mean, I have one, but I'm in the process trying to get the house finished. We're living in it. There's other things, though, with the baby coming and things like that that are really important that kind of go before the garage. So
yes.
I bring the car home, I wash it, I nut and bolt check it, and then I bring it back down during the week, and we get it ready and scale our cars together, and then we haul over Friday. So
cool. Now it's a little ways off yet, but of course there's that, and I say track champion at Devil's Bowl, and I got some big races coming up there, especially the big one at the end of the season. Have you talked about doing that with this?
We've really focused on Fridays, so to speak. And I know both of us with our schedules and with our home life and stuff, it's tough to plan ahead like that. But we are talking about possibly doing the 200 weekend, see if we can't do it.
Cool.
We talked about maybe even this Sunday and going up to the bowl. I mean, I'm involved no matter what with this Sunday. My brother-in-law is co-promoting that race, the big block, small block challenge there with Bruno.
Okay.
So I'll be there regardless helping, and I'll be there maybe racing, and if not racing, I'll be there helping them guys out because it's a pretty big deal, and he's put a lot of effort and work into this thing, and it's going to be a big deal. I think it's going to be an awesome race, really.
Yeah, yes. Everybody, like they say, everybody that's anybody is gonna is gonna be there, and the sportsmen also are going to be running an event as well. But you're not going to take the car; you're just going to go up and give them a hand, or you are.
Yeah, that's the plan right now. And I don't know, maybe John will say after Friday, if you want to go up and run, we can go do it and try to get in the show and make a good night out of it. I mean, it is a draw race, so that's a plus and a minus. So if it was, as long as it's not a handicap race, because it's tough to go anywhere with no handicap in these days. I mean, Friday, obviously, our starting positions help us there, but it's hard to come from 25th with a crate car and drive it to the front unless you got extra laps and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. But there's guys been doing it almost every week over there. Tremont.
Oh God, yeah, they definitely have. These bigger races, they go forward for sure.
Yeah, it's turned out to be a pretty good racing track. Speaking of which, I think we have Mike Bruno on the other line. Is that you, Mike?
That's me, big dog.
Oh wow, boy, you are loud.
I feel like I'm racing now, and Mike's in my ear again.
I went away with that this year.
Yeah, just don't yell. That's all, Mike. Don't yell at me, and we're good.
Oh man, one of them nights.
But
it happens.
Yes, but so Scott, you kind of just gonna, like I say, do Fridays and then see what happens at the end. I'm trying to talk him into racing the 200, Mike. So.
Yeah, that'd be a good thing for him.
We did well up there last year for that event, and hats off to them guys. Not because Mike's on the phone, but that we talk about it all the time. That event, regardless of the one that's coming up this weekend, which is going to be awesome. That last year's 200 was a lot of fun. We had a great time. Just to feel like the show and it felt like a mini Super Dirt Week for us. And my dad said it in the stands. I mean, coming down pit road and doing all that stuff and making the 200 laps, and we got caught up, unfortunately, in a little bit of a wreck at the end, but that's part of it. Put ourselves in that position with making an adjustment we shouldn't have, but that's racing, and you'll get that. So, no, it was a good time, and I think John and I have talked about it. We possibly could do that because it's a little more affordable for us been going now as we go. And like I said, it's possible I might even be up there next weekend for this big block, small block shootout. So
Cool. No, we'll be looking for you. Before I let you go, I'm sorry we had to cut you off there, or
No, that's okay.
didn't get started there. I get Stewie once a year, and I'm going to get my money's worth. So, but anyhow, who we got to thank? Obviously, the Miller family, and who else?
Yeah, I got to thank first and foremost my wife Jade.
Yep.
She puts up with all this, but it's a little easier for her since she grew up doing this stuff, so she can't act like it's a surprise at all ever. So we laugh at it. I mean, she helps me with the car, washing it, and is there every Friday night with me, and wouldn't want to miss a race for the world. So definitely thanks to her, thanks to my family, my whole in-laws, Hector, and them guys, Neil, that whole crew. They're always there to help me out. Obviously my crew, Andy and Justin, Johnny, Bill, they're there every week. Luke, they help me out. And obviously all the sponsors on John's car, Rensselaer Honda, Asco Electric, 30 Farm. Some of my sponsors have come over. Benson's Pet Center has been huge for me. Spa Cafe in Saratoga, Palmat, BNC, Classic Muscle Parts, Colorize, PE Designs, Half Moon Evergreen. And I think I got the whole list. I'm trying to remember. It's not my car, so it's hard to remember that list. But definitely getting better with it every week. And also, obviously, a huge thank you to John Miller himself and his family. I mean, that's a big deal to let somebody jump in your stuff. Yeah, and especially they treated me like family. Right. So
that's what I say, especially when, yes, he's treating you like family now, but I mean, not really being that close right up until, this year.
Yeah. I mean, they let me use the garage. Cool. He went on vacation. He tells me where the code is, and he treats me like one of them, and that's awesome. And we're having a good time doing it. So hopefully we can get him in Victory Lane here soon and keep our momentum going.
Yeah. Well, the car's been good, and as well as the driver for the last since you got into it. There's no doubt about it. And I know well, just quick, and then Mike, hang in there. We'll be right with you.
No, you can wait.
You've got all your work done, I hope, by now.
Oh yeah, pretty much.
It's almost, it is dark now. So, but anyhow, I don't know how many people know, and I'm not bringing it up to make an issue about it, but people don't know. Scott, you're doing what you're doing with one eye, and that's pretty damn amazing, because I've known people in the past that have had issues, and they said they just couldn't get the depth perception, but it hasn't stopped you at all.
Yeah, it's something I've learned to get used to, so to speak, I guess. I mean, this happened to me back in high school. Yeah. I actually, I don't know if things might have been different. I, back in high school, had a shot to play baseball and was talking to colleges and everything, and that happened my junior year, and obviously when I lost that eye, it changed a lot. Depth perception for baseball became very hard, and I still played, and still finished out my career in high school, but obviously those colleges stopped talking to me. They dropped their interest pretty quick because my average went down, and a lot of things went down. Yep. But it was no big deal, and I kept racing. It was a little bit different, and I sometimes may make a mistake here and there with it because of the depth perception, but honestly it is another one of the reasons I like the top. I don't have to worry as much when I'm up there. I can go up there, and the only thing I got to worry about is the wall, and I'm not going to chop anybody off. And when I'm on the bottom, you kind of got to worry about coming down on somebody, and I'm not the type to defend. If I see you, I'm going to move up, and I'm going to race against you. And I'm definitely not into slamming a door shut and trying to take each other out. It's just not the way I drive. So, I've gotten used to it, but it doesn't bother me that much anymore.
No, obviously, I mean, through your career, you've been, very successful. And, of course, not to make it any easier on everybody, but now there's a lot of the guys with these new containment seats and the Hans and all the other stuff. They're almost in the same boat you are anyway. So I've
been trying to get these promoters here to maybe have a night where all the drivers got to wear one eye patch.
There you go.
I can win that night. So.
There you go. Well, Mike's always coming up with new ideas. Maybe that would be a teaser. Come and have it, call it the pirate race or something. And I don't want to make fun of this guy, but that's no, it's
okay.
So anyhow, congratulations on it. It was a big win because I say, 6 months ago or something, you were probably thinking, I guess I'm not racing this year. You do have your own car
Yeah.
yet, but that'll, like the garage, that'll come along, with time, I'm sure.
Yeah, you got it. I mean, you never know. I wasn't sure what we were doing, and
Yep.
I mean, I got married, bought a house, I got a little girl coming in December, and those are my priorities right now. So we were going that route, but they were all good enough to give me a ride. So it's been awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's been a pretty good year, though. Get married and gonna have a baby.
Yeah, I can't complain at all.
Yeah.
I'm a happy man. I got to tell you that.
Right. Well, that's the main thing. That's for sure. Again, Scott, congratulations, and hopefully we'll see you Friday night with a little treat. Hopefully.
Definitely, and thank you guys, and everybody. Don't forget to get out to Devil's Bowl Sunday because that's going to be one hell of a show up there with this big block, small block challenge. I think you're going to see something you haven't seen before. So
right.
Definitely have at it.
Okay. Thank you, Scott.
Take it easy, guys.
Take care.
Yeah, take care, Scott.
Yep. All right, we'll switch. We'll put our promoter's hat, or your promoter's hat on here. We talked about it with Stu. We talked about it with Scott. But it's not. It's probably the second biggest show on your schedule this year, I would think. 200 obviously is the big deal at the end of the season. But this one here, the purse is about the same. So money wise, it's more of your concern, that's for sure, I guess. But this Sunday, the big block, small block, and you've been doing, like Stewie said, social media is a big part of all of racing or any business now today. If you want to be noticed and get your product out, you got to have it on. And you've been popping up on a weekly basis. All these guys that are committed. And I don't know, there's got to be a joke there somewhere, but anyway, coming to this race now, I'm sure you got a list there. You can reel them right off in your head of the guys are coming. Obviously, as Stuart, we talked to him. He is involved, of course, with the autism thing. Something you got lined up, way early on in the early stages of this event. So Stewie will definitely be there. He's looking forward to it. Never been there. That's going to be cool for him.
Well, he hasn't, but Eric Mack being helping him on the cars and stuff. I mean, Eric Mack used to go back to the Devil's Bowl back in the day for a long time. So there is some connections to Devil's Bowl.
Yeah.
He just Stewart himself hasn't raced there.
Right. Which is a good. It's going to be fun for him and for the family.
Well, I honestly think for a lot of people, especially with the big track, it levels the playing field more. Because there's a lot of unknowns, and we've kind of changed how we prep the track, and it's very smooth and slippery on the bottom. It's got some bite on the top, and so I think that there's going to be a lot of surprises on Sunday. I really do, and trying to figure out who's, like you asked Stuart, what are they going to run for a car? I think that's a big guess on a lot of people's minds.
Mm-hmm. And we still don't know for sure what Tommy's going to bring up. But I
got to be honest with you. I've heard of some guys bringing two cars, and we, with this deal, we are allowing guys to bring a big block and a small block, and they can time trial, run the heat races in both, and run the 25 lap qualifier, which pays $1,500 to win.
Okay.
And if they do qualify, for the main race, at that point they've got to choose if they're going to run the big block or the small block in the main show.
Mm-hmm. And they should know by that time.
They should, for sure. Yep.
You would think. But, yeah, I know. Well, we talked to Kenny Tremont a couple of weeks ago. Actually, I talked to him Friday night again. And he's bringing the big block because he said that's really all he's got. He said small block's not really ready. Do you think, and I'm sure there probably will be, I don't know, Mike, if any of your 602 guys will try to make the show?
One thing we're not doing is, we've asked them, we're not allowing any 602s to run the race. You got to have a true 358 or a big block. And we did have some of them, ask us, but we kind of wanted to have this as a deal on its own and hopefully build this event into something bigger and better down the road. And we just, listen, I think we're going to have plenty enough cars without adding the 602s. And so really to make the event a marquee event, we wanted to kind of keep it centered, with this rules package.
Mm-hmm. So no W16s either then, I would think.
Yep, you can run W16s.
Okay, all right.
Yep, just no 602 crate motors.
All right, and the W16s will have a the weight break the same as dirt?
Yep, we're basically mirroring. Lyle was gracious enough just to let us use his rule book basically for what they use on Friday nights, and that's basically the rules that we're going by.
Oh, okay.
The weights and rules. So we're running Malta rules.
Yep. Yeah, that's right too. Because I was talking to Mark Johnson a couple of weeks ago, and he said that he was jiggling the coin. I guess the way he's been around the small block at Malta, I think he's probably going to be bringing that if that one is still there. And so we just mentioned 3 or 4 guys that are going to be there. Who else? Who have we missed for sure?
Well, today I found out that RJ Ronnie Johnson's going to be there.
Okay, beautiful.
I talked with Jesse Mueller today. Jesse's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Fuller is going to be there.
Yep.
New additions this week: Ryan Odaz, Matt Depew is going to be there. Frank Cord Jr. The third, excuse me, is going to run. Actually, he's going to run I believe, the small block and the 602 race. So he's going to double up. Actually.
Yes. Yep.
I think you mentioned Brett Hearn.
Yep.
Elmo Reckner is going to be in the show. He's going to be there racing. Neil Stratton. Boy, I'll tell you who else off the top of my head because I don't have. LJ Lombardo from Lebanon Valley. He's going to be there racing.
Yep.
I said Rocky Warner.
Yep.
Boy, I'll tell you.
Well, it's, like I say, most of the.
Demetrius Drelos, he's going to be there as well. Kenny Tremont. Bobby Hackle, he's going to run as well. Allison Ricky's going to come up from Orange County.
Mm-hmm.
Brett Haas is coming over from the Valley. Brian Berger's going to run. I'm just trying to think who else here off the top of my head.
And we're talking not only Stewart, but a lot of those, some of those names haven't been there or haven't been there in a long time.
No, and the thing of it is, that's what's kind of unique about this show. And Hunter Stratton, which is Hector's son, Neil's brother, had brought the concept to me in the off season and, talked about, running a big race. And, one thing we were trying to do in the off season is we were trying to get a Super Dirt Car Series race. And, I had talked to Dirt about becoming Dirt Car sanctioned after we had dropped the NASCAR sanction. And one thing that I wanted to do was a Super Dirt Car Series race, and they were like, well, we have a new rule this year that says you can only go up one division for a series race. So with us running 602 crate cars weekly, the highest division that we could run at Devil's Bowl for a series race would be the 358 series. And no knock to the 358s. I think the 358s themselves right now, there's some work to be done with that division. Mm-hmm. So when Hunter came to me and he's like, hey, I'm interested in doing this concept. I'm like, this is what we need at Devil's Bowl. We need a big race. And I explained to him that, we tried with a Super Dirt Car Series race and it didn't work out yet. And, my philosophy is this, if, we can get some of these drivers there and we have a really good track and the fans have a good time and, word spreads, you know what I mean? So it's, if it's not a Super Dirt Car Series race eventually and, we can have our own big races. And CJ kind of always, looking back in the playbooks, did this kind of stuff, with Albany, Saratoga, and Devil's Bowl. He kind of did things his own way.
Yes, and it's, what you have been doing over there in the last 2 seasons just been phenomenal anyway, as far as turning the track around and, everybody from the racer to the fans that have been there, said what a great job you've been doing. Obviously, you got, like every track promoter this year, got thrown a huge cue ball or whatever with a spring that we had, which we didn't have a spring. But
and it's funny you say that because it's ironic. Just last week, we had terrible weather. We had a rough track the first 2 races. But the thing that a lot of people don't know that have never been there before, and the people that have been there do know this, we have a very good soft clay that holds a lot of moisture and gives a lot of bite. And New Hampshire Motor Speedway actually tested our clay for us, and we got the test results back last week, and we actually have 88% clay content in our clay and 10% silt, and then, minutes, little bits of fines. So, they were telling me that, they just put a quarter-mile dirt track in over there at New Hampshire, and they have 30% clay on their track, and it's not bonding together. And so it's just Devil's Bowl. No matter where I go, and it's not just because I own the track, I always hear about the clay at Devil's Bowl.
Yep. And it's, like I say, and it's
good and it's bad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right. You ended up having to take, I think we said 2 feet off the thing.
Well, we actually took about 6 inches off it. We had 2 feet.
Okay.
And honestly, I want to get it down eventually to about 4 to 6 to 8 inches at the most all the way around it.
Yep.
Just because it makes it easier to work. It's easier to get the moisture out of it. You know, you got to be able to get down to the pavement. And, you know, we found that out this year that, you know, the moisture would only go one way, and that's up because it can't go down because of the pavement. And, you know, I talked to a lot of people about it, and honestly, I got to be straight up. Lyle, I got on the phone with him because he actually worked for CJ at Devil's Bowl back in the day. So he knows the clay and what Devil's Bowl is like, and he frankly, he just said to me, he said, you know, you haven't had enough drying days. You're going in all these directions, but it really, you need sunshine, you need warm weather, and you know, you can sit there and you can do everything in the book and harrow it up and do this, but when you continually have rain and the moisture content stays in the clay, he was 100% right. And until he said that, something to me, something clicked, and I'm like, you know what? I'm working on this thing 7 days a week. Right. I just got to stop, open it up, and just let it dry when it can dry. And if we can't race, then we can't race, you know. And then the weather turned, so it worked out good.
Yeah, it was. Every promoter, but I say you probably had an opposite problem where a lot of guys are having, you know, too much dust, too much. Slippery track, whatever, but now that's where everybody wants it's a smooth track. And like I say, I usually check in with, well, I could ask you, but you're going to give me your answer anyway. but I asked
Go ahead.
No, I asked Kenny and some of the other guys who run over there every weekend. Frank Cord III, usually sit with him, ends up that way. But Al said how good the surface has been the last couple of weeks. You know, since, you know, finally Mother Nature settled down and let you.
Yeah, it's you know, we've actually about a month ago we got it turned around, and you know, we've had some dust at times, but you know, this is the trade-off with Devil's Bowl. You know, we can put the water to it and it'll hold a lot of water, but the problem is you take chances, because then the softer you get that clay, the longer it holds it, and the more chance you get to make ruts. Mm-hmm. So back in the day, you know, in the Richards regime, they used to just flood the racetrack. And they used to make the cars go out and pack it in, go round and round for 45 minutes to pack the track in. Right. But at the end of the day, you didn't know what you were going to have for a racetrack. And I can remember at times down in turn 1 at Devil's Bowl, you could lose a car. The ruts were so big. Mm-hmm. And, you know, now we're only working, we have a very hard packed base now. We're only working with probably the top 2 to 3 inches at the most of the surface of the racetrack. And, you know, when you get that slick, and if you break the surface a little bit and you get the fines, you're just going to continually get dust all night long. And, you know, a lot of people that haven't been there, we had tires on the inside of the track last year, lined around the corners. And then we had Uke tires, but we tore up some cars, and I said, the hell with this. You know, I don't know, 2 or 3 races in, we took all the Uke tires out, we took the tires out, and we built about a foot berm down on the inside. Mm-hmm. And what happens is, you know, we put water down there, and we didn't flood this in the beginning, like with water, and get it really good. So what happens is if a guy runs down there or somebody breaks through the berm, you get dust all night long because you just can't soak it enough to, you know, keep it from drying out. So if somebody goes through it, you're going to have dust because it's just the way the world is. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so we have a tendency now to flood it a little bit more, and, you know, hopefully guys understand it and try to stay out of it. And, you know, we haven't had any major wrecks because of it, which is a good thing, but you know, Sunday we're probably going to have it sealed over pretty good, just because we know that you know, the big blocks and the small blocks will tear through it, and if we don't have it hard, so it's just going to be one of them nights where, you know, we need a hard racetrack, and we don't need ruts really.
Right, and you know, you're doing all this against the norm. Sunday nights are tough. I mean, obviously, Devil's Bowl is always, not always, but mostly been a Sunday night track for most of its career, and you know, obviously, I guess you got the benefit is the location of it. There's not a lot of things to do on Sunday night, so that helps.
And you know, the other thing is we get most of our fans and cars and people from over an hour away. Yeah. It's not like I dream of having my track set where Albany Saratoga does, because people got 30 to 40 minutes max. People are at a racetrack, and you know, that's just not the way it is at Devil's Bowl. I mean, we have a lot of great local support. Yes. But if you look at the numbers, the majority come from over an hour away just to support the racetrack on Sunday nights.
Well, that's a great plus, that's for sure. But it is a a great little racetrack, or not little anymore. It's the big track again. That you have put your heart and soul, and I say pretty much to the man. I haven't heard a lot of complaints about anything you guys are doing. You think similar to what Brett?
Come on, Ed. There's got to be a complainer out there. Well,
I mean,
that's just how it is. It's in this world we're in. It's somebody's always upset with something, but we like that because that's how we make things better. And like you said, we put our heart and soul into it. My staff and my wife and family, and we take the negatives and try to turn them into positives. And if somebody has a bad experience or we find out about something, we work hard to correct it and make it better and have a family atmosphere. And so that's important to us just as well. If there is a problem, we do encourage people to let us know that.
And on that, before we finish up, talk about this, Ray. You have some unique, as you mentioned before, a qualifiers race, and the God. Now I lost the thing, and I can't remember your.
Oh yeah.
What is it,
you mean as far as what we're going to do is we're going to have time trials, and then we're going to have heat races for the big blocks and small blocks, and then we're going to have 25 lap qualifying races. And each one of them races is going to pay $1,500 to the winner and $200 to take the green. So regardless if a guy just runs the qualifier and doesn't make it in the main race, he's still going to get at least $200 for coming that night. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the top 10 out of each one of them 25 lap races to get a 20-car field. And then we're going to have an option where cars can run the consi and race to fill out a 24-car field.
Okay.
For the main race of 10,000 to win, and it pays $500 to start. So if a guy can make it in through the qualifiers, and he just starts the main 50 lap race, he's still going to walk away with $700. So by our standards from what we pay, that's a pretty good payout. And the neat thing about this is I always go to a lot of big races, and all the time I hear about, Matt Shepard picking the pole or Brett Hearn, or they knew that, that was the battery it was going to be under, or somebody told them, you always hear that kind of stuff in the sport.
Sure.
I mean, I think there was a time last year where Shepard picked the pole for like 3 or 4 races. I don't even know what the number was. And people were doubting it, saying, hey, he's got an inside. Well, we've come up with a neat little deal, or actually Hunter Stratton did, a pole shuffle. And what that means is, the top cars in that race, rather than have a redraw of the top 12, we're going to pull them 12 cars to the infield of our infield track where we use for like hot laps and stuff to stage the vehicles. And these guys are going to race it off 2 laps at a time for the pole. So, and I don't even know the exact breakdown of the brackets, but say 12th is going to race against first, and then the winner is going to move on. And then the guy that qualified the winner of the second race, he's going to race against 11th and down through, or 10th, whatever it is. And that's how we're going to get our front row, is they're going to have to race their tails off to be able to start on the front row.
Right. And that's different. And it's kind of similar to the Bill Ag thing that Fonda has when they start.
Yes. Yep. And they do that down there. Yep. Right. Where the extra cash on the line and stuff.
And
so again, it's just.
So the heat races, I'm getting a little confused, but that happens when you get my age. The heat races actually set the lineup for those qualifiers?
For the 25 lap qualifiers, yes.
Right. That makes sense. Okay.
So basically it's time trials, which is going to start the time trials heads up for the heat races, and then the heat races are going to be qualifiers for the 25 lap qualifying races.
Yep.
And then they're going to have to race off for the top 12 for the pole shuffle, and then from there it'll be how they qualified through the qualifying races.
Cool. I kind of like that.
And like we said earlier, if a guy like, say, Brett or Stewie or whoever, if they bring 2 cars and they run a small block and a big block, and then, lo and behold, they qualify both cars, then they're going to have to immediately let us know and pick whichever car they're going to run, and then what we'll do is we'll take another one that didn't qualify in the other 25-lap qualifying race so he can be into the race.
Right. Yep. That makes sense. And I thought that was unique. I don't know. I think that was a Dale. Was it a Dale show, or I can't remember, last year somewhere I went where they drew, but you had to give your number that you drew to somebody else.
Oh yeah,
that was fun. Yeah. That was Fonda a couple of years ago.
Fonda,
yes. So
and that's anytime you can do something different, and honestly, that's every day. I mean, I was in the grader today for 4 or 5 hours, and You know, I'm just always thinking and trying to come up with different ideas. And, you know, even, you know, for driver introductions, we're going to do some different stuff. And,
cool.
you know, it just things that people don't do that, you know, we all try to come up with. And I think that's, in this sport, you got to do that kind of stuff.
Right. And I just got a couple of guys who were over at Devil's Bowl last week, and I was there last week. The racing was great. Track was smooth and fast. And another guy said, "Yeah, I know. I was there watching." So it's good.
Yeah, no, we had a good year last year. We ran all 19 events with no rainouts, and this year, you know, we got hit with a couple. But our crowds this year, and I'm not saying it because it's my track. We've had fabulous crowds, and you know, full 90% of the time. You know, when it was 90 degrees, you don't get a full crowd because the people just don't come. But you know, we had another great crowd the other night. You know, it was kids rides, and you know, it's a lot more people in the grandstands than what Devil's Bowl has seen in a long time. And I think Sunday, with the KOD King of Dirt Series 602 race and this big block, small block challenge, the big blocks of this magnitude with this amount of drivers have not been to Devil's Bowl in 20 years, since 2000, the USNA race.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it, you know, the people are going to get to, you know, see some of their favorite drivers, not all of them, but some of them, and you know, they're not going to have to travel, you know, 2 hours to watch them. So I think it's going to be pretty busy as long as the weather's in our favor on Sunday. And, you know, I think that our job is to, you know, put on and have a good racetrack and put on a great event that people talk about. And I think that down the road it'll sell itself.
Well, I see, like you said, obviously what you're doing is on the plus side, as is Brett Dale. So, I mean, we're lucky here in our, well, I call it the Capital District. Devil's Bowl is part of that. Because you're, like you said, only an hour away. That you got young guys. I mean, I'm not going to say you're a young guy, but you're younger. That's for sure.
I feel old some days, I can tell you.
But it's headed in the right direction when we got young promoters like you and and Brett turning the old places around. Obviously, Devil's Bowl was a premier track, you know, many years ago, and then it's back on that same track again. And trying to swim uphill, but a Sunday night's always been tough. But I mean, you know, that's.
I'll tell you, you're right, because in the pavement, you know, there was a while when we were, you know, saying, you know, you go through them phases where, you know, why are we doing this? And you know, we have a towing business that, you know, keeps us busy and all that stuff. But you know, it's like anything. Sometimes you got to see some things through, and you know, unfortunately, you know, the deal that we had with the Richards, they wouldn't let us turn it back to dirt sooner, and we wanted to, and believe me, it was on our radar, but we couldn't do it. So it's been a challenge to get it to where it is, but we could not do this without the support of all the race cars that come there on Sunday nights and all the great people that support it. And you know, it's with any racetrack. It's not just our racetrack. And it's our job to, like I said, put on a good show and entertain the fans and get them out of there in a timely fashion and all have fun. I mean, that's, at the end of the day, a lot of people lose sight of that, you know, you got to have fun in what you're doing or you don't do it for very long. Right. And, you know, we want people to have a good time when they come there.
Yeah, and I got to have a quick put on your dad hat for a minute. Your son, who's becoming a prolific driver, he's won 2 races now over at Devil's Bowl, and he's looking very good at Albany, Saratoga. Progression. And as you remind me each and every week, he's only 16. He's only 16.
Yeah, he is. You know, well, he actually got his first one at Albany, Saratoga, and then he backed it up at Devil's Bowl.
That's right.
And it's funny you say that because that's one of the reasons I was kind of late calling him the show, because I was doing a setup on his car with him and his crew chief for Friday night. So, you know, he's coming along. He's learning the business and you know, on the racing side of it. And, you know, I go with him on Friday nights and I coach him, you know what I'm saying? And tell him, you know, where he needs to run the race car and find the brown and stay out of the slippery stuff. But, you know, he's 16. So, you know, in the beginning, I don't think he wanted to listen to me, but I think he's getting it and I think he's listening more. But I just told him, you know, all I want you to do this year is I want you to learn how to drive the car and the racetracks. With that being said, I mean, he probably, you know, if you told him to put a setup in the car, 100% he couldn't do it. Or you told him, you know, ask him why does the shock have more rebound in the right front? He couldn't tell you. It's because I don't want to overwhelm them. You know what I'm saying? And I want them to kind of learn in stages and enjoy it, and not beat them over the head every day, and have a good time. You know, it's important to do that. And I was in that position where I drove my father's cars after Bob Savoy and C.D. Colville and Jeff Trombley and Harry Peak, and the expectations were very high, and that pressure was, I think back to it, I'm like, holy cow, you know, and I don't want to put them in that position, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to ask you, if you sometimes at nights at the racetrack, whichever racetrack it is, I don't, probably at Devil's Bowl, you don't have very much time to
I honestly, I don't do anything with them at Devil's Bowl. I mean, I go with them on Friday nights at Albany, Saratoga.
Right.
And like I said, I'm his crew chief's coach. I'm his coach. And, you know, my wife's there with them, and they all work good together. And it's kind of like a training session for Sunday nights, because Sundays I'm all business, and, you know, we have a racetrack to run, and they're on their own. And you know, so they do their own thing on Sunday nights. So, you know, they follow what happens on Friday nights, but when they won the first time at Devil's Bowl, that was pretty much all on them, and they did it on their own. So it was a pretty good moment. It really was.
So I'm probably getting. I was going to ask you a question. You kind of almost answered it. So you get flashbacks every once in a while at the racetrack when you were driving. Your dad was telling you something and said, "Damn, I remember this now. This sounds like
all the time. All the time. I get that, and I can remember how I treated my father, and I can't tell you it was always good, you know, just because you have differences of opinions. And in this day and age, you know, my son's generation, it's kind of the same way. And I just, you know, he gets upset and he doesn't want to hear what I have to say. But I think at the end of the day, you know, he will gain respect. And as you get older, you look at things differently. And I went through that with my own father and all the guys that drove for him. So I think that he has, you know, pressure on him just because, you know, obviously we own a racetrack, and, you know, people always come up and talk to him about, you know, my father and about the race cars he owned and my racing, and he barely remembers me racing. I mean, I can remember, you know, back in 2010 when we were racing pavement at Albany, Saratoga, and Airborne, he used to, you know, go down to Victory Lane when we'd win, and he'd be that kid that would step on everybody else's toes because he wanted the trophy. So he knows about the sport, but he doesn't really remember that part of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I thought was kind of cool.
But I told him I wasn't done yet. So I told him eventually when he can set up his own race cars, and, you know, they got it, you know, all down, I'd eventually like to race with him, against him, you know, not, you know, like per se a match race, but like be able to race on the track at the same time. It was something that I always dreamed of doing with my father, but, you know, obviously he was, you know, older in generation than I was, and he was out of racing by the time I started. So it's something that, you know, our age gap is a lot closer. So I think that, you know, sometime over the next few years that, you know, we'll have a couple cars, and maybe we'll get to race together somewhere.
No, that sounds like fun. I don't know. I was talking to Bob McCready and Jack Johnson and talked about their kids, and Jack said that one of the reasons why he kept Ronnie as a crew chief for so many years is he didn't want to get out there and race it.
Didn't want, yeah, exactly. You know, and Bob, you said, know, it's just part.
Yeah, Bob said, he said, you know, there's things you have to do in a race car that you don't have to explain over the dinner table afterwards. So he said, That's right.
And you know, when you're 16, you no matter what you tell somebody, you just don't understand that stuff. You got to see it out. And and you know, going to Devil's Bowl, he has some pressure on him from me personally, because, you know, at the beginning I told him, I said flat out, you run into any cars and we're going to black flag you. Just because I didn't want that at our track. I didn't want, you know, to be in that position. And, you know, he's been very respectful, and, you know, a lot of people come up to me and talk to me and said, you know, how if they get into something on the track, say at Malta or Devil's Bowl, he has gone over and talked to him, and I think he's gained a lot of respect in his first year from people with me not standing by his side. And, you know, in this sport, that's very important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I get a kick out of kind of comparing you and Kenny Tremont with Montgomery. There's been a couple of nights it's been real entertaining in the pit area to see you racing fathers. I'll
tell you, I worked at the track Friday, and I usually leave for Albany, Saratoga about 4:30, and I left late on Friday night, and I didn't get down there till about 6:30, and the power steering lines were unhooked on the car when I got there, and they were bleeding the power steering, and there was a problem, and we worked all night on that car, and we even went over to Kenny Tremont's and got a power steering puller, and I changed the pulley on the power steering pump, and it ended up being the belt. We have a reduction set up from Bicknell, and I actually had texted Randy from Bicknell, and he's like, oh yeah, sometimes the belts will melt and they'll shrink, and I looked at the belt, and it was like half the size of the normal belt. And we fought that thing all night, and it was as simple as changing the belt, but it's just the way it goes, you know what I mean? And you know, I've been on that side of it, so I get it, you know.
Oh yeah. I got a kick out of.
Not that that's what I wanted to do. You know, it's nice to be able to go Friday nights and kind of do a little bit of PR and talk to people. And but it seems like my nights get pretty busy on Friday nights, and you know, I can't always do that as much as I want to. And a lot of people do come by, or if I see people, I chat with them. But you know, my main focus on Friday nights is him and his race car, and I'll say people have been really good in respecting that, and we've had a really good time down there. We really have.
Yeah, and it's like I say, it's good to get out, and like you say, if you only run one place, so I'm sure he's getting a lot of experience. Seat time, you can't beat that. That's what
and that's what I tell him. I always tell him, you know, finish. I don't care where you finish. If you have a 20th place car, you finish 20th, or pull it in the pits if you think you're going to get in the jam. Just don't tear up the race car, and the more laps you run, the better you're going to get.
Well, one more time, let's quickly run down through what we're going to see on Sunday, August the 11th. You have 2 25-lap qualifiers, the 50-lap, of course, the main event, and also you know, the sportsmen are there, so it's going to be
King of Dirt Series. Yeah, I've been hearing of a lot of people that are coming up for that race. It's paying, I don't know, I think $1,750 or $1,500, and there's an Andy's bonus in there, so it should be a good race. We got 2 divisions only on Sunday night, just because the magnitude of what we're going to do on Sunday night with, you know, the big blocks, the small blocks, the King of Dirt Series. I believe we're probably going to have a halfway decent full pit area, and you know, with rotate and everything, you know, we gave all of our other divisions a break and gave them a week off, but I think that, you know, probably a lot of them people are going to come and watch the races just because it is going to be a big event, you know, and at the end of the day, if a guy could win the big block qualifier and the small block qualifier, which could happen, and the main 50 lapper, they could walk out of there with $13,000 on Sunday night. So it's, for the amount of laps there is, it's a pretty good payday.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't even want to go down that road, but I guess from right now, the weather looks great. So that's
I heard it's going to be cooler, which is nice, because when it's cooler, it's a little easier to prep the track, and you know, you don't have to, you know, spend so much time in a water truck, and you know, we usually water. You know, that's why I don't go many places on Saturday nights, because we usually, you know, once the sun goes down on Saturday nights, we start watering. So usually I'm watering 3 to 4 hours Saturday nights to finish up by midnight to get back up early Sunday morning to go back at it. So
we didn't.
Our weekends,
we didn't mention you know, the early activities too. If people want to go over, you know, spend a day for the autism thing, they're going to have.
You know, that's another thing I want to bring up is you know, and I know you touched on it with Stuart, but this event is centered around autism awareness.
Yes.
And there is a barbecue and a cornhole tournament from noon to 3. If anybody that wants to come out there and
Rocky
get there early, and
Rocky will be there.
What's that?
Rocky Warner will be the first one there. He is a cornhole crazy man.
So, and then the 50-50 as well. People need to know that the 50-50, everything is going on our end towards autism on Sunday night. So obviously the winner is going to get their share. But anything else for the 50-50, we're donating all that to autism as well. The Crossroads Center down in New York. So, you know, it's good because yes, Stuart Friesen's coming there to race, but also it's for a good cause, and anytime you can do that and get support for that, it's a good thing. It really is.
Yep. Yeah, and like I say, Stuart addressed that earlier, how much that has meant to his family, the Crossroads and stuff. It's you know, it's just one of those things that and I don't know, I'll put a challenge out, I guess, Fonda versus Devil's Bowl, but they got almost 16,000 last.
Well, I'll tell you, they raised a lot of money. I'll tell you, and I would love to do it. I don't know that we can do it, but we're going to try like hell. You know, it's a little easier because you know Fonda's basically his hometown.
Oh yeah,
and you know he races there weekly, and you know up here, you know, there's a lot of Stuart Friesen fans, but there's a lot of Brett Hearn and Tim Fuller and Ronnie Johnson, and all these other guys got fans too. So it's we're still doing it for a cause, but the people themselves, race fans are loyal to their drivers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's for sure.
But on the Devil's Bowl side of things, yes, and everybody is aware that we are doing this for the Crossroads Center, so it's a pretty neat deal.
Yeah, and, Hunter, as you had mentioned, was kind of the driver behind this whole thing, and
when he came to us, we wanted to, he's like, I'm bringing this to you, and I'm like, well, we got a lot on our plate, and you're gonna have to do a lot of the legwork, and Justin, that works for me full time, and my wife is really good at doing all the media and the print stuff, and the writing the stories and all that, but you need another person on the ground, because for us to do a weekly schedule racing like we do, and then the 200 coming up in another 3 weeks, and it was important to have that third person.
It's getting that time of year when the big shows go. No, I just had a comment here. This is fan would he loves the sound of the format, and he'll be there. So
well, I think that I'm hearing that in a lot of places, and it's funny. The other day, I don't remember what day it was, the end of last week. My phone rang, and it come up on the phone, Brett Hearn, and I'm like, what the hell is Brett Hearn calling me for? Yeah, and I figured it was something about the race, and that's exactly what his questions were. It was about the format, and the big block, the small block, and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's, like we said, it's a unique deal, and people are going to want to come out and see it and see something they haven't seen before, really.
Yeah, well, I wasn't too far off it, maybe, because I told Stuart that Brett may bring the 602. Obviously, he can't bring that, but he may bring the W6. He may bring the W16 with it.
No, he's going to save the 602 till the 200, probably.
Right. But no, it's going to be great, and I say a lot of it, like you said, a lot of those guys have, well, like Stuart, have never raced there, and other ones
have raced there,
have raced there, and it's a total different. Yeah. It's not the Devil's. It's not your father's or CJ's Devil's Bowl anymore.
No, no, and it's not the small track. It's a bigger track now, and it's just, there's going to be times there's going to be bite on the track, and it's going to be slick. And another one that I forgot to mention that I did get confirmation. I got a message tonight from Carol Palmer that Bobby Varon as well is going to be at Devil's Bowl on Sunday as well. So
cool. I know that
there is some other ones that.
Yeah, because Bobby's run well there, and I did care. That's right, because I talked to Carol on Saturday, and she said, yeah, they were thinking about it.
So no disrespect to any drivers, I just don't have a list right in front of me, and I'm sure there's some names that are going to be there that we haven't released yet, just because it's like anything, you can't let all the cats out of the bag in the beginning. You got to kind of spread it out, and that's what we've tried to do, just to keep the interest level high.
And they have racing to do this week before Sunday, so. And
they do.
We know how that thing's.
Well, and that's the thing, guys got to race Friday night, and I know we're going to, quite a few guys from Albany, Saratoga are coming, and then there's guys that are racing Saturday nights that are playing this Saturday night that's planning on coming, on Sunday to race. So again, I've been in the business. I get it. Something happens Saturday night, and that's the car they're planning to come to Devil's Bowl with, and they don't make it, then hey, that's the chance we all took.
No. Well, Hunter just wrote. He said if the 12S goes back to back Friday, he votes to have them race on Sunday, and the car owner says, "Well, you never know." So we'll see.
Yep. No, and I think that'll be a good KOD race too. I really do. Not to slight that deal in any way, because we have had some very competitive. Yes, Tremont has had some good runs at Devil's Bowl, but we've had some very competitive racing there this year, and I think some people that have gone there, for the first time this year, have realized that it's some tough sledding, and there's a lot of guys that are up on the wheel all the time, and so they're really going to get their money's worth. If it's not just the big block, small block show as well, the KOD race as well.
So Ken will be in both, and that was sure.
Yeah, and for our weekly cars, it's show up points, so they have to come and race the King of Dirt Series race, but the points are even across the board. So, but he is planning on running both divisions. Yes.
Yep. Alrighty, very good, and we will be chatting with you again before the 200. So, like you say, it won't be too long, and best of weather, I guess. I think you got all the rest of the stuff taken care of, so that's all we need.
Well, I think as long as Mother Nature's on our side, we'll be happy. But we appreciate you having us on the show, and thanks for doing what you do and promoting the sport, because I know that you enjoy having people on there, but it means a lot to the racers and the tracks. And again, we give you plugs on our show. We have a show tomorrow night, our Facebook Live show. So we're all in this together, and we're all in it to have a good time, and that's what it's all about. It really is, and we really appreciate it.
All right, so everybody tune in tomorrow night. That's about 6 o'clock?
6:30. Let's talk racing. Devil's Bowl.
Okay, there you go. We will we'll do that. So, okay, Mike, we'll see you on.
Okay, man. Thanks for having us, and we'll see you Friday night at Albany, Saratoga.
Yep. Have a great night. Thank you. All right, we're out. Thank you. Well, we did it, and the wife's not too angry yet, so I'm good. We'll be back next Monday with yes, with something, and we thank everybody for tuning in. We had lots of good numbers here tonight, all the way through. Not that I expected it wouldn't be any different, but I want to thank Stewie for taking some. Geez, we went almost an hour with him, and that was good. And Scott for hanging in there. Didn't get to chat with him as long as we wanted to, but we got the job done. And of course, Mike Bruno. Everybody get over to Devil's Bowl next Sunday. It's going to be a really big show, and some of the drivers haven't been there a while. Stewie, one of them. It's going to be a great time. If you haven't been there, you won't believe the place. If you haven't been there in a long time, and we're there years ago, because Mike and his whole family have done a terrific job there. It's a show place. He's done a fantastic job, and the racing's going to be great. So, and we'll be back next week to talk about it. Maybe we'll have the winner of that race on, and of course, next week, everybody's asking already, and he's got it wrapped up. So, probably have our co-host back with us, Rocky Warner, celebrating his championship. We'll see if his crew will let him sneak out for that night, and maybe one of the other champions at Fonda. But for the next couple of weeks, we'll try our best to have live in-studio guests here and talk about the championship at Fonda Speedway this year. It looks like right now Rocky Warner's pretty much in good shape. He is, I guess. And Tim Hartman Jr. and Cousin Luke, they all look like they're in pretty good shape for that deal. You'd like to see it come down to the last week, but hey, those guys had some great seasons. Rocky just had one of those years, not only at Fonda, but winning it for his first win at Albany, Saratoga. And, slept the weekend there last weekend, but couldn't get him here because he lost his voice, which I think probably turned out to be a good thing because I don't think we want him on here every week, but we'll get pretty close. All right, keep it between the boards. We'll see you at the races. Don't forget, get to Fonda for the finale, championship night, when all the champagne will be popped. It is also backpack night. All the school kids that attend, I don't know all of them, but they're going to have a bunch of backpacks stocked up for school supplies, courtesy of the Kids Club and Fonda Speedway. So take your kids Saturday night to Fonda to get that all taken care of. And the Ridge will be back in action. If you happen to not be able to make it over to Devil's Bowl, don't want to travel that far, the Ridge will be back in action where Rocky won again this past Sunday. Ivan Jocelyn, congratulations to him, picking up the Pro Stock win at the Ridge last night. And also he did announce that this Saturday night at Fonda will be his last racing this season. He's going to have knee operation. So he will be out for the rest of the race season. But ending it with a win would be a great thing. So we'll see how it goes. We're done. That shut my...
Oh, I just shut the phone off.
But this one, it's not.
Oh, it clicked in your
Must
ear.
have been coming through here.